Hey, I'm Nashi.
I'm Rezlar.
And I'm Frosty. Welcome back to the Value Pack.
Hold on, I have to gear check Nash right now. Alright, that is some bull jabber. Dude, he CC'd me how to dance. What's happening? Rezlar!
People look at you like you're crazy, and they refuse to admit that it's pay to win, and just scream that it's pay to convenience! It's pay to convenience!
Big money, big money, big money,
Big
money!
money!
Oh shit, we got it! We fucking got it!
What's Rezlar's intro? Oh yeah, and welcome back to the Value Pack, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Let me thank the patrons really quickly for supporting the podcast and the show. Hawaiian, I Has Issues, Jeremy Johnson, Calahad, Melt on Your Mouth, Mineria, Slide Tech, Talisec Septum, thanks, and Wavesy. Appreciate all of your guys' support and everyone who supports our individual streams. Rezlar, myself, Nashi. Nashi, are you streaming New World or have you been?
I have not streamed in a little while, actually.
Okay, you gonna start streaming some New World stuff?
Yeah, probably soon. I've just been busy with a whole bunch of stuff at home, so when I'm playing, I kind of just want to relax.
I see. Streams aren't relaxing?
I mean,
Come on,
it's
man.
not that. But yeah,
All
I
right.
thought his name was always Melt in Your Mouth, not
No, Melt on.
Is it really?
It's Melt on. Yeah.
I've been under a delusion this whole time.
Yeah, you've been fucking up. All right, so today is an interesting day. I missed last week's podcast, so we could talk about that in a second. But yeah, today we're gonna be talking a lot of Tamer, and for the last few weeks we've had two guests outside of the Striker week where we just had Divios, but we had two guests, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to bring on two people who I think have completely different styles. I don't know how much Khur PvPs, but I know Balance mostly PvPs, and Khur tries to PvE, except he plays Tamer. So only recently that's become good. But yeah, we're joined by Khur and Balance. Thank you guys both for coming on. I appreciate both of you guys.
I appreciate you too.
And I know it's kind of short notice, but we don't know, at least up until this week, we didn't know who is getting reworked until the day of the rework or the day before. So yeah, I kind of messaged you guys last minute, so I appreciate you guys coming on. I know you guys are busy bees. So let's start with Khur. Khur, you're a returning guest. People have heard your voice before. Just if you could remind everyone just where people could find you and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. I I stream on Twitch, do a little YouTube here and there, but I'm a Stockholm Syndrome Tamer player for 5 years now, since 2016. I had like a 3-month stint earlier this year where I was just tagging other players or other classes and just having fun playing stuff that wasn't Tamer, but I always go back to the class. That's about it. I play BDO. I'm like in the process of applying for grad school right now for next semester. That's about it.
What are you going to grad school for?
Audiology.
Doctorate.
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
That's cool.
What is that actually?
Yeah, what is audiology? For us
So
idiots?
audiology is like
For us less
getting
educated.
people that get hearing tests and things like that, right? It's like OAEs and hearing aids, cochlear implants, things like that.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Do you have like a history in that? Is there like family thing? What got you into audiology?
So like I'm actually the first person in my family to ever go to college, but like some people know, but I spent 4 years in the Marines, and I was a 1371 combat engineer, and we did a whole lot of like blowing things up with C4 and things like that, and they always like stressed the importance of like ear health, and like they'd have the little mobile trucks that would check our hearing and things like that. So I just kind of like, I don't know, when I got out of the military, I was just like, hey, this is kind of interesting, I guess. Like let's look into this and see where it goes, and here I am.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. You got to blow shit up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of derailed the whole thing, but yeah, it's
That's all Nayashe heard. It's like, wait, he blows stuff up. He's going to school for blowing stuff up. It's exciting. Balance, you're also in school. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you?
Okay. I stream on Twitch. No YouTube channel. Think about making a Tamer God though. Maybe after the reworks.
Okay.
Yeah, I stream on Twitch. It's not balanced because I don't know why, but that's my Twitch. I've been playing Tamer since beta, since I was a little wee boy,
Mm-hmm.
and I still play Tamer. I only played Tamer. Yeah, that's about it. I go to school too. I don't do anything as nearly as cool as blowing stuff up, but I go to school.
Yeah, dude, it's funny because you've been playing Tamer forever, and there's record of you playing Tamer forever because you streamed like 5 years ago, and I was watching like a clip from your Twitch, and it's funny because you're pretty young, and you started playing BDO really young, and I think typically speaking, BDO is a little bit of an older game, boomer game. Like I think older people play BDO. It's not a lot of kids, but you started playing when you were you even in high school yet, or was it like your freshman year of high school?
Yeah, I think I was like freshman or something year of high school. I don't remember exactly.
Balance
But-
was like you were like 14, right?
Yeah, he was pretty young back then.
14, 15, something like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing you on like Lakari streams, like farming him a couple times. That used to be hilarious.
Yeah,
I
I've been
remember
playing.
we would always joke about them making a a PG-13 server for specifically you, Balance.
Yeah, I've been playing MMO since I was like 3 or 4 years old, so just pretty normal for me now, even though it's a boomer game.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah. MMO as a genre, I feel like, is slowly becoming a boomer genre. I mean,
Yeah.
when World of Warcraft was fresh, everyone was playing that, or Dark Age of Camelot. A lot of kids are playing all that, but now it's like, I don't know. People don't have the attention span to progress over time anymore, I guess. Yeah, but some of those clips are really funny because your voice is totally different now.
Yep.
You like can hear you growing up over the course of your stream. Yeah, so one of the cool things. So Khur, I've known Khur for a while, and Khur is a long time complainer of Tamer.
True.
You're a little bit more positive about Tamer. Your outlook is different. So I thought you guys together would be really interesting because it would be a little bit different, but also the bias wouldn't be from a non-Tamer player because everyone that doesn't play Tamer kind of hates Tamer because we all get fucked up by Tamers.
Even Tamers hate Tamers, let's be real. When they fight each other, they fucking hate it.
Yeah, a lot of Tamers hate Tamers too. So talking non-reworks, before the reworks, the current state of Tamer, Balance, if you could start us off, what do you feel like the state of Tamer is overall, starting with like 1v1 and then large scale, and then you could talk about PvE.
Okay, in 1v1, I think everyone knows my standpoint, at least for the most part. It's the best 1v1 class in the game at high end by far. It isn't even close. At lower end, like when you're like newer to the game, I think like a class like Lawn is way better because it's just easier to pull off. Tamer's still really strong.
Mhm.
At grinding, Stuck Tamer is actually pretty good. Awakened Tamer, not so much, but it's like it's decent, right? It's good enough. And then in group play, I think Tamer's a class that generally most people don't do well at, but it has a lot of potential. It's just really hard to play because it's a class that relies completely on frontal block for all of its damage while being like a squishy melee class.
Mhm.
But it has like super high damage potential. So if like you're actually good at utilizing frontal blocks, it can be really good in group. But overall, I think the class is actually in like a pretty good state. I just think like how it's balanced is weird because like its 1v1 is super good, but its group is like not as good for like the general player. So, but like overall, it's like a pretty good class.
Khur, do you feel the same about those three aspects?
I personally agree with Balance in the sense that, no pun intended, but Tamer is actually a super balanced class where it's like she has one thing that she is a god at, and she has large scale where she's not good at, and she has PvE where she's passable, and god tier at underwater. So it's like she's a balanced class in that regard. But it's kind of a weird thing where it's like BDO is at the point where if your class is balanced, it's not very good because we're surrounded with a lot of classes that aren't balanced. And I think that it would be in a perfect situation where if every class had to make a trade-off, be it, if they're good at one thing, they're not so good at another thing, it would be great. But we have a lot of classes that aren't. But I do agree that she is the best 1v1 class for sure. And her PvE is in the best spot that it's ever been in the history of the class.
Starting with you, Khur, like just for 1v1, is Awakening or Succession better?
For 1v1, it really just depends. Succession Tamer is hands down the best 1v1 class in the game if you have low ping, more so just because it plays this like ratty style, but it's not fun to play and it's not fun to play against. So yeah.
Yeah. What about
And
with
Balance
large
probably
scale?
agrees with that.
Is it any different in large scale Succession compared to Awakening?
You if you playing Succession in any kind of group content, you're kind of griefing yourself because the class, it doesn't even have like an S block and it doesn't have very many protections at all, to be honest.
Yeah. Balance.
It's just more like a 1v1 rat, yeah.
Your thoughts between the two?
I think overall, like in 1v1, I would say Awakening is better. But how you look at Succession is that its matchups are like it either like hard counters the class it's like good against, or it gets like absolutely destroyed by the class it's bad against. That's mainly because Succession has like it has a lot of issues dealing with classes that can kite it, like Archer and like Awaken DK.
Right. And in large scale, you agree you're kind of griefing if you're playing Suck?
Yeah, for the most part. I think if you are like doing like a special teams kind of thing or like flex, it isn't as big of a gap, but I still think Awaken is better even in that situation.
So on May 26th, when they did the PvE balance changes to a bunch of classes, one of the things that helped Tamer a lot, aside from all the damage buffs, is the pulling. Being able to use Roaring in both Awakening and Succession, having a bigger AoE, and just like an easier way to get mobs to you. What currently is the difference between Awakening and Suck and PvE? Like, why is Suck so much better? Is it just pure damage?
So Succession's Roaring is obviously bigger, so its pulling is better. It also has like the DP debuff on Lightning of Earth and stuff like that. And I would say the damage in general is just higher with like the Bolt Jolt spam, but the pulling is definitely like a big part.
Yeah. Khur, you feel the same? Is it better at Orcs?
Yeah.
Is Suck better at Orcs too?
Sucks better in pretty much every single situation. Succession also has a really fast and easy way to shred mobs DP by 50. So for example, they shred with their S plus LMB, right? So that's a DP shred. Plus you cancel for the last hit of Lightning of Earth. That's a magic DP shred. Plus you get the add-on shred on top of that, and they all stack. So you get 50 DP shred almost instantly. And it just has slightly bigger AoEs for PvE, like Balance said. So it just all kind of culminates to just being better in every way in terms of grinding.
So I always say, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but when people ask me if Tamer's any good at grinding, I always say it's actually pretty good at grinding now. Succession obviously better than Awakening, but it's like good everywhere except for Orcs, because Orcs don't really pull traditionally like other places. So your AoE size actually makes a massive difference. Am I off base on that?
I think that's pretty true. I think Succession Tamer is like super spot dependent on how good it actually is.
Yeah, I agree. Because like that's why I personally don't grind Orcs. I grind Bloody Monastery. And at Bloody Monastery is just so much better because like, the mobs can be CC'd, so you get the extra modifiers for them being floated or knocked down. And the mobs just like group up and pull very nicely. Whereas Orcs, they don't really do that. It's more so based around like being able to blow the mobs up without grouping them up. So,
Right.
yeah.
So the reworks come out, and Tamer's one of the ones where I'm just like, I don't really know what to expect when I like think of Tamer reworks. I mean, I've talked to you a little bit about it. I had this dream patch note thing that I wrote up where essentially like the main point of it is just adding like 25% AoE radius to all of the abilities.
God.
Because that's one of the things that feels bad in PvE and PvP. Is the AoE size, and I don't even think it needs to be nuts, but if you just look at the difference between Awakened Ninja AoEs and Tamer, Awakened Ninja AoEs aren't that crazy, maybe Katana Shower is, but when there's a little bit of distance between you and your opponent and you can still deal damage, it makes it infinitely easier to position in large scale and keep yourself out of harm's way, whereas when you have to be on top of somebody's body, it's like, I don't know. There's a good chance you either miss or your positioning is bad. Like, for example, if you're relying on frontal guard, like Balance was saying earlier, with Beast Rampage, if you can back up a little bit, it keeps everybody in front of your frontal guard. But if you have to be right on top of a target, it's a lot easier to get to the side and CC a Tamer out of it. So for you guys, starting with you, Balance, with AoE size, in regards to AoE size, like, is that one of the major things you were hoping for in the rework?
Yes, for sure. 100. Like that was probably the first thing I wanted, like on the list of changes. Just bigger AoE.
On which particular skills for Awakening?
Beast Rampage.
Okay. So they increased the AoE on Beast Rampage. Does it feel like they increased it enough?
I would like it to be a little bigger. It's about like one character. Like the radius is like one character longer, which actually does help a lot. But I would like it to be like a little bit bigger than it is right now. That definitely help.
Yeah. You feel
The other issue is like the AoE is like a circle around the character. It isn't like as much in front of you, right? So like you still like have to get like kind of close to really do damage with it.
Yeah, this is one of the issues that Succession Sage had with Void Lightning. If anyone remembers, when it first came out, Void Lightning, for some reason, the position of the AoE was like in front of and behind. And what they did to change it is they actually just completely removed the fact that it hits behind you and moved that, like the AoE size is the same, but it's just moved to in front of the character. I almost feel like Beast Rampage needs that too. Because like, I mean, I guess it's cool that it hits behind you, but because it's frontal guard damage when you use the core, it's kind of weird that it would be hitting behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the little increased range on Beast Rampage. Like it's not a lot, but it's more. The biggest thing is more so it can hit people that are to the side of you slightly. Like Balance said, it's not really like a frontal increase. It's more like a little increase of being able to hit people on the side of you, which is pretty nice. One of the weirdest things though is they did some weird down smash changes to it, and when you get the down smash to trigger, sort of like in the current game, it knocks them out of the range of Beast Rampage because the range is so small. So there's a lot of times where like if you get that down smash unexpectedly, like you just can't follow up and finish them sometime. I don't know if Balance has ran into that, but I had that happen a decent bit while I was messing around with it.
Yeah, I think the bigger Beast Rampage like range actually like helps the like down smashing, like knocking people back. Like you can like actually hit them now, because like that was such a big issue. Sometimes you get like the second down smash off slam, and then you Beast Rampage, and it would just miss because of the down smash. But like now you can like actually hit people.
So overall, that is a really nice change. Even if like it would be nice if it was a little more, you'd definitely take those big time.
Yeah. Okay, so Balance, you got to submit your thoughts and feedback to the ART program, which we have no idea if oh yeah, I called it Void Lightning, sorry, is that the incorrect me? Void Gateway is what I meant to say. Void Gateway on on Sage. Void Lightning is the Tamer skill. So how much of the stuff, just in like a general sense, how much of the stuff that came in this rework is stuff that you specifically were asking for on the ART form that you filled out?
So the main thing that I was arguing for was like larger AoE sizes, and they did that with like Beast Rampage and Intimidation. It's like bigger. But I also know Tim, the EU Tamer, he was arguing for making Air Lightning a super armor, which I thought was like a super good idea as well. And I included that, and they did that as well. But the big thing that they didn't include that basically both of us wanted was to make Celestial Slam like a super armor and remove like the CC and down smash on it, because Tamer still like kind of lacks protected damage outside of Beast Rampage, and that would definitely help if it was protected.
Yeah. Khur, were
Hold
you,
on.
were you? Yeah.
I like. Do you like Celestial Slam balance? Because I feel like out of majority of the new skills that were added, it's pretty mediocre comparatively. Like it is a stiffen, which is nice, I guess. But a lot of the times, like you don't even really use it for the CC. It's more so just trying to eke out some more damage. So like it would have been really nice if it was made into a super armor instead of just and like take away the CC. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want. I would also like the skill to be like cancelable like earlier on into the animation, because it like doesn't really fit how Tamer plays, because like everything in the Tamer kit you can cancel except that for the most part. And I think like making that skill a super armor and like getting rid of the CC and everything wouldn't make like the class much better in 1v1, because it doesn't have like much trading potential in the first place. So like changing that doesn't really change much for the class in 1v1 at all.
Yeah.
It just help it in group.
I always I thought that was kind of weird when it came out too, where I was like, that's such a strange, like the stiffen is borderline useless outside of like mid combo as like a re-CC before you refloat them or something. So it's like, I mean, you're not catching people with Celestial Slam. So I never really understood why they gave it a CC and not protection. I feel the same way about the Maewa skill. Like,
Which one?
well, the Maewa skill doesn't have any CC. The new Maewa skill, Frost Flower or whatever,
Yeah.
where like that skill just
It should have had super armor probably.
yeah, I don't know. It's like kind of weird because the damage on Celestial Slam is pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
good.
it's decent. Yeah, especially considering like you don't have a whole lot of like I don't know. So like with Tamer, it may seem like you're getting one shot by the Tamers, but a lot of the times they do a lot of abilities that just don't really do any damage. So for example, they'll hit you with like an initial bolt jolt cancel and then like use like the pull thrust for the DP shred, so you don't really take any damage. And then out of nowhere, you take a lot of damage, right? So people think they're getting one shot, but you're using a lot of skills. So the Celestial Slam is like a nice little extra decent bit of damage to mix in there.
Yeah. So super armor instead of forward guard, like if you could choose.
I'd be fine with either one, honestly. I think if it were to be a forward guard, though, I'd really want the skill to be cancelable, because like it's really easy to punish the skill if it were to be a forward guard.
I just need something for Ten and Cutter to be able to pop you. You know what I mean? Leave you locked in that skill and give it forward guard, so you use it by accident. Let me catch the bad Tamers. Okay, so walk me through some of the highlights of the rework. And we'll start with you, Khur. Because I think Tamer is one of these classes that a lot of people don't know a whole lot about. They just see it, they think the pet isn't fair, and then they're angry. And like, because I do think because it's like a small character model and a girl, like not as many people play it. And I don't know. It has like a weird like I don't know. It's like more niche, if that makes any sense. But I don't know. Walk us through some of these rework changes, starting with like the pre-awakening stuff. Is there anything significant in the not succession but the main weapon changes?
So, first I want to say what I was hoping for from the rework, and then we can segue into the things that they change, and you can kind of see if like any of that came. So me personally, I'm kind of like in the minority, I guess, when it comes to like in-game players, but I personally don't really believe that 1v1s matter all that much in the grand scheme of the game. So I personally was hoping that the rework would either nerf some of her 1v1 potential, but then give her some like impact in terms of RBF and like siege content. That was like my biggest hopes, more so than like specific changes. But they did do some cool things. Like they kind of reworked the whole pre-awaken Heilang combat, right? With like making it more dynamic with different abilities, and kind of tweaking the AP. But they they added a little bit of flat extra AP to it again, and that was a little disappointing because I was hoping they would finally make it so like, okay, if you get more gear, the dog does more damage, more so than, get 100 AP and the dog's follow-up attacks are at their cap of damage, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But they did give it a little bit of extra flat damage on top. And then they added they reworked those Heilang mounted combat skills, and that was kind of cool, right? A lot of them look really nice, and they do decent damage.
Yeah. Is that something that's actually going to be used? I still can't help but feel like that's never going to happen.
I did a lot of testing on it and like grinding in like Elvia spots with like 300 AP and stuff like that, and the damage is decent. But the biggest issue when you're riding the dog is none of the abilities are like have any frontal on them or super armor and things like that. So like you're eating the full damage to the face and not really being able to regen. So even though it's able to do some decent damage, you kind of just get melted by the mobs. So if they added some kind of way for some of the damage to be directed to the dog more so than the character, it could be used in like PvP or high-end PvE. But yeah, you kind of just get deleted by mobs whenever you try to do it, or whoever you fight.
What about like the mobility on it? Are you able to? Is the stamina consumption still crazy when you're running on it?
Yeah, it still has really high stamina consumption. They added like 3 dashes. When you do Shift F, Surging Tide, you can do like these 3 little bursts of movement that have like an attack on the end, and those are cool. And you can have like a speed burst when you press sprint. So the stamina consumption is a little better, and it's overall faster to ride, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I don't balance. Is there anything with the mounted combat that has you interested? Are you gonna mount your Heilang?
I think it all depends on if it does enough damage or not. Like I feel like anything can be like broken if it does enough damage, regardless of like how squishy you are, right?
Yeah.
I think the best thing for them to do though, like if they want to actually make it viable, is to make your like the player tankier on the dog, because
Yeah.
like Khur was saying, you're just gonna die.
Yeah, if you start getting hit by a Sage or a Nova in large scale, you're probably dead. Does it have enough mobility on when you're on the pet to like jump into a fight and then get out?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
It's definitely a lot less clunkier than it currently is. Currently, it's like the Heilang mounted stuff is really clunky, and you wouldn't want to do it. But I was kind of tweaking or messing around with it, and it got a lot better as I goofed off on it. You have some side jumps, you have some pretty burst like frontal movement and things like that. So I mean, if they keep tweaking on it, it could become like a niche play style, like Balance said.
I was like talking about riding the dog in like my art posts, and I was thinking like a cool way to do it would actually to be make it similar to like Succession Zerker, the transformation with like the buff. I thought that'd be cool.
Like you just become the Heilang?
Well, like maybe you like just mount it, and then you have like new skills that you can do.
So kind of like a Tiger Blade type thing, except
Yeah,
just on the mount. Instead.
Gotcha.
That would be pretty interesting, actually.
All right, so with the main hand stuff, like I'm looking at these changes. I see the Air Lightning change, Void Lightning change, where you can cast it at range. It has a few other changes to it as well. The phenomenon where it didn't have super armor at the start has been fixed. Can you talk a little bit about the Void Lightning and Air Lightning changes? Like how impactful is this, and is any of it helpful for large scale? Like I guess the peeling aspect of it.
I think the Air Lightning change is actually like one of the best changes in the like out of all the reworks, and basically it makes it so Air Lightning is super armor. And Air Lightning, the only use for it originally was to cancel tree climb, but it was unprotected. Like if you hit someone with tree climb, you know how you're like stuck in that weird animation.
Yeah.
Where you can cancel it with Air Lightning, but Air Lightning was like unprotected, so like it was still like unprotected. It was a little faster than the like base animation though. But making that super armor like gives Tamer a way to like actually stay protected if you come in contact with someone with a tree climb, and it like adds like a little more skill to the class too, which I think is like really cool.
I was asking Mamo about his opinion, so I had a little bit more to go on coming into this. And one of the things he mentioned with the Void Lightning thing, I'm going to just read exactly as he wrote it. He said, another really awesome change that you can basically throw a range Void Lightning at the location where hailing is, so you'll become a peel and zone pressure god. You can use command attack to have hailing target an enemy to attack, or use beast rampage to have hailing teleport to a target as long as your crosshair is on that target and the hailing is already in attack mode. Then immediately use Void Lightning and the hailing stiffen will appear at its location, and it won't teleport back to you like it does now. So one, do you guys think that, I guess starting with you, Khur, do you guys think that it'll help for that sort of thing, like large scale peeling? And two, how do you make it, like if the pet is outward and you use Void Lightning, does it ever cast on top of you if you want it to, or is it only where the pet is now?
So I didn't goof around a whole lot with like the whole targeting with hailing, because I don't know, the hailing, they said they improved the AI, so it's harder to test it in global labs, because in the current game, if there's like 4 or 5 people around you, you have not really much way to control the AI. Because, for example, let's say I do command attack and I send command attack at a specific player. If there's any other player within the area or comes too close to me while he's doing his charge, he will redirect to that other player. So I personally don't believe that that you have that much control over it in large scale. Like in a perfect, like in a vacuum, that may be the case, but in reality, it doesn't really perform that way in my experience. Balance may have a different opinion, but yeah.
So I did some testing with it, and I think what Mamo said like is like kind of true, especially in like I could think of it being like really strong in AOA, especially like 3v3 AOA. Group play, I feel like people are generally like moving around so much that it might not be as useful, but I can definitely see usage for it. It's definitely better than how it is on live. That's for sure. Like, because you can like still control the pet a bit. Like, I can send you a GIF in a moment because I'm on Global Labs right now, so I can like show you how it works.
Cool. If I, let's say the pet does like go attack a player, is there no way to use Void Lightning on yourself, like to make the pet come back and use Void Lightning? Do you have to do something first?
It depends on what your dog is like aggroed on. If it's aggroed on a player, it'll, and you have command attack on, it'll like go on top of the player. But if you don't, if it's not aggroed onto anything, it'll just drop on you.
Yeah. Let's see. Hailing Scratch. The movement distance has been changed to be the same as absolute. Scratch. Skill damage has been adjusted. The effect of knocking out the opponent on successful hit effect has been removed. The additional mental damage effect applied in stages 1 through 4 has been removed. Air attack applied when linking to Scratch skill after jumping has been deleted. Did anything major change with Scratch?
Did that really say the additional mental damage?
Yeah, that's what it says there.
So
that's how it feels when I'm fucking fighting a Tamer and I CC them and they fucking catch me with a dog.
So Scratch had this like sharpening claws passive quote thing, or that's what I'm thinking about when you do like pole thrust. And in the current state of game, it adds a bleed where they take 10 bleed damage every 3 seconds for 36 seconds. It's like a little old dot. And they changed that to be a self AP buff and a target AP debuff. So you buff yourself by like 10 AP and you debuff the enemy by like 10 AP. I forget the exact number.
Is it magic AP or all AP?
It's magic.
Okay.
Yeah, magic.
It doesn't stack with leaves dropping.
I shouldn't stack with leaves. So that's more. So that's kind of nice. I think that's more like gonna help succession more than anything. Right, because like a lot of the time in Awakening you were gonna do the leaves anyway, but I think it's really more for succession.
Right. I noticed the flash stance of chain, like it kind of looks different, but I couldn't tell what was different. So I went on and just like used every skill like once or twice just to see what they look like. Like flash pull and stance shift kind of looked different, but I couldn't tell what exactly was different. Is there anything major with those that changed?
I'm pretty sure the only like big change was that they changed the sharpening clause passive, which like procs off of like pull thrust and
Right.
stand shift, and they just got rid of the bleed and turned into like you put minus AP onto the person, which I don't understand why like that even is in there, because you're only going to use the
Yeah.
flash when you're like comboing,
Right.
and then they made a magic AP plus 10 buff, which is like cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Throat burn, surging tide. Anything major change with these?
So throat burn basically got turned completely different. So throat burn was the skill where you kind of swipe forward and then backflip backwards, right? Like an unprotected. Sometimes I use it to like, cancel the last hit of lightning of earth, basically. But they made it to this like frontal guard animation, like a 2-3 second frontal guard animation that can't be canceled. So it's kind of weird. Like I think it's a good thing for like Succession PvE because it has a little bit of HP sustain on it, because Succession doesn't have very much sustain at all. But for PvP, it's kind of weird because you can't cancel out of it. So it's like, it's like 2-3 seconds where you're just standing still with that little frontal animation.
Right.
I don't know if Balance was able to find a way to cancel it, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I can't cancel it. And another thing that does is it kind of ruins soaring arts. Like I know like not many people really care about that. Like I don't really mess around with soaring arts, but it basically, so the new animation like doesn't hop you back, so you can't like combo it when you're in the air. So
Right.
I think the best thing to do would just be to give the old animation of throat burn, because like the old throat burn animation is like kind of cancelable like halfway through it, and just put frontal block on that.
Yeah. What about surging tide? Anything changed with surging tide? So the range of the attack, which was different for each, has changed to be the same as the widest. Phenomenon which directing and actual attack range were applied differently. Changed the number of hits and attack range to not increase when used during cooldown. And changed so that the movement reduction effect is not applied when hitting successful hit during cooldown. Looks like they just nerfed it.
So basically, whenever you use like surging tide, right? The first time you do it, it has full range, full distance. And then if you use it while it's on cooldown, it has reduced range and reduced effectiveness. So it's like it doesn't have much range, and yeah.
Right.
But and the same is for like Lightning of Earth, where it's like you have the 3 hits and then the last hit is the biggest hit. So they basically made it so that when you use them on cooldown, they will still have the biggest range on them, but they won't apply debuffs on cooldown. So it's like a buff and a nerf in a way.
Right. Okay.
So like currently you can do like Lightning of Earth and cancel to the last hit, and you'll always get the DP shred. But now you can only apply that DP shred every 10 seconds. So it's like I don't know, it's kind of good and bad. It like cuts out the need to do a cancel, but it also makes it so that if you're killing a pack faster than 10 seconds, or if you don't pull properly and you miss debuffing some mobs, you can't, do it again real fast to get the DP shred. So it's kind of a good and a bad in a way.
So someone told me that roaring is a little bit different. Which roaring being the one where you press, I guess on Succession, Shift C, the pull skill. What did anything change with that? Like what I saw that the cooldown got changed, but I don't know if like did the CC get changed or anything changed with roaring?
The animation is faster if you don't cancel it, and also absolute roaring used to be like it was really weird to cancel if it was off cooldown, not on cooldown, off cooldown. But now that isn't the case.
Okay, but it's still like, at least the Succession one still stiffens every time, over and over and over.
Also, something I found is Surging Tide. You know the pet attack from Surging Tide where it like follows you?
Mm-hmm.
That's still in the game, and the other animation that sometimes happens, which is like it's basically the same as pet roaring animation, that actually CCs now on absolute. So it's like
On absolute surging
even
tide. Where he's like
Yeah.
sitting there roaring in place, right? He's like sitting there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. What's the CC? Is stiff?
Yeah, it's basically identical to the like roaring pet animation.
Nice. More AoE stiffs that block out space. Perfect. Perfect. The command attack, protect, and follow and help, did those change in any meaningful way?
You can use your pet from like range now, which is cool. Like
Okay.
with Void. But that's like the main thing.
Yeah, they did some weird thing with like I think it's command follow, where you when you use it, the pet will always try to position itself in front of you.
Mhm.
I haven't really messed around with that a lot for like specific uses for it, but other than that, they said some like AI improvements to the dog, but they never really go into too much details with those, so I can't really know how to like what
Right.
exactly they change with the pet's functionality or the way it acts.
So with the command stay where the pet goes in front of you, there's some like cool stuff you can do with it against like range classes because I at least did this against rangers sometimes. If they had a lot of more gear than me and they just one shot me, I would put my pet on command stay and then stand behind it if I'm like low, and then it would like soak almost all of the damage from the ranger. So
Right.
now the
Yeah.
new command stay makes it way easier to do that than before.
Yeah.
I remember Tamer's trying to do that when I was using stub arrow and stuff.
It was like it's really good against like archer, even though you don't see very many archers. But Hei Lang can block pretty much every archer ability except for Luthergon's call.
All right, so that's kind of like the end of the list of just the normal main hand stuff. It looks like Prime Void Lightning got a bunch of changes. So they increased the
It's big.
attack range, they added damage, they fixed the super armor at the start, they added a cast speed reduction effect upon successful hits. Says the floating and the air attack of additional blows have been removed. All defense increased attack speed and cast speed reduction effects are not applied during the cooldown. And then it looks to me, because they added crit as well, that this is also going to be a PvP damage buff, not just PvE, because it doesn't say it's reduced any additional amount for PvP. What were you going to say about this, Balance?
So the super armor at the beginning is on absolute as well, and that's like pretty big because now there's no gap ever when you use Void Lightning. That was like one of the easiest gaps to punish. I don't know why they added this like exactly, but like it definitely makes the class even stronger. And at least Succession Void Lightning, the casted animation is huge. Like it takes up basically your whole screen, but it isn't too big of a deal because it like doesn't really do much damage. All it does is make it even easier for Succession Tamers to slow you.
Right. Let's see. Prime Surging Tide got kind of the similar things, but they also added an evasion reduction rate. Is that new, or is that that was always there? It just doesn't apply during cooldown now. Actually, don't remember the.
Yeah. Currently, Succession Tamer's Surging Tide does an evasion debuff. Yeah.
Okay.
And it does it even, as far as I know, it does it even if it's on cooldown.
Right.
So that was that change where I was saying where they made it so that those effects won't apply on cooldown, but it won't have the nerfed like range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So this one was one that I noticed the animation right away was like different as hell. Very, very different. Prime Lightning of Earth. What exactly changed with this skill, and is it good or bad? The forward R&B skill.
Or you want to go first?
It's kind of, so I'm gonna look at it. I'm more so looking at it from a PVE perspective, in the sense that I personally believe it was a nerf in terms of PVE. Because, for example, it's not really a skill that you ever used for its damage. You pretty much just canceled it to get the third hit instantly, which it has the biggest range for the DP debuff. Well, the change made it so that instead of having, so the way the skill works now, it does like a 1-2 short AoEs, and the third hit, she does like a big like hit, right?
Right.
Well, if you canceled it with things like Moonlight Strike and Throat Bird, etc., you could instantly go to that last hit for the DP debuff. Well, they made it so it doesn't have those first 2 short range hits. It's just one instant last hit. And you don't have to animation cancel anymore. But they made it so that you can't apply the DP debuff if it's on cooldown for those 10 seconds.
Right.
So it's a buff in terms of not having to do another animation cancel, but it's a nerf in the sense that if you can kill a pack in less than 10 seconds, or if you're not pulling perfectly to make sure you're not missing any DP debuff mobs, then it's kind of a nerf because you have to wait 10 seconds before you can apply the DP debuff again. If that makes sense.
Right. Is this a skill?
Basically,
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with like what Khur said in PvE, but I think it's actually a buff in PvP because now you can use. So originally you'd have to use like the first like other attacks of Lightning of Earth to get the last one, which actually CCs, and you could like cancel the last animation with a couple different skills, but
Mhm.
now you can just use the last animation from any skill, and so you can just use it as a CC from like any ability, like chaining it after.
If the damage, because it says they adjusted the damage, I don't remember what the old damage was, but if the damage is good and it hits hard, does that kind of make up for the fact that you can't DP debuff as often, or not really?
I think it's weird. It's a really weird like situation because Succession, I don't feel like Succession is really struggling in what it's good at, right? Like Succession is that 1v1 rat stomper where it's like if you don't know how to play around the rotating of the 2 traps, I mean you're just going to get farmed, right?
Right.
So it's like it does offer some more like damage and some like dynamics where it's like, oh, you grab someone, pole thrust them for the debuff, and then instantly hit them with the Lightning of Earth. They're debuffed by 50 DP, and then you can chain that into Upward Claw for another float, right? So it's like you can get off a lot of damage and a lot of debuffs more than you could before in like a 1v1 scenario. But I don't really think she needed like Succession Tamer needed more 1v1 combo damage potential in exchange for some PvE knockdown, like some PvE, like that little PvE nerf in a way, if that
Right.
makes sense.
I personally am like a little disappointed with what they did with the Succession because I was arguing a lot to like just bring more power to the base kit and less to the spamming of just pet traps, but they clearly did not listen to that. And they just kind of
Doubled down.
Yeah. It's kind of what I've always said too. I feel like people would be more inclined to play Succession Tamer and to fight against it if like they just removed the way roaring works as far as the constant CC and gave it like utility and skills that are actually fun to catch people with. I don't know.
I find that across the board, that's the one thing that Tamer haters and Tamer lovers can agree on is their hate for Succession. That is the one thing that everyone can agree on.
Yeah. I don't know. It is kind of weird. So Upward Claw just got like the attack range changes and then the roaring skill, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So overall, you guys are kind of disappointed with Succession. Does it need an S block? Or no?
So I'm pretty sure they were trying to use Throat Burn as like a new block, but I feel like it's
Right.
kind of bad, like as a block. So I don't know. I think an S block or something like that would be way better.
Yeah, they did the same
Yeah, I
thing on
agree.
Sork, where they gave forward guard to a couple skills. But on Sork, I actually think they're decent.
I think it would be good if you could. So Throat Burn basically, it feels like Balance said they wanted to work as like a pseudo block. I think that would be good if you would be able to cancel it with WW. But the way it is now, you basically pop that skill and you're stuck in place for like 3 seconds.
Right.
So it's like you do get that little bit of a block, but you're
So is
just
the only
there.
real use like after roaring when you're sitting in your trap anyway, or avoid lightning? I guess for forward guard while you're in there, so you don't get popped by a ranged skill.
Something like that, or more for like to block like ranged damage, which is nice because like that is one of Succession Tamer's like issues. But I don't know. I think it still missed the mark. It could have been way better.
Right. All right, so let's move on to Awakening. Some of these changes, at least to me, some of these are actually pretty huge changes. So Cloud Stomping Cloud and Flow Cloud Ride are now just one ability, which means no separate cooldown. I'm assuming you both are happy about this.
At least I think for most people, it's like a beneficial change, especially because like the flow had a 4 second longer cooldown, or like 3 seconds in 4 in
Mhm.
comparison to the base one. So you couldn't use the flow every single time, like if you were just using cloud stomping
Right.
off cooldown. So it effectively is a buff in that sense. But the one thing I don't like is no matter if you use the flow or not, it uses stamina now.
Right.
And a big thing that I would do, but wasn't like really seen in a lot of the player base, is to use the first part and only the first part of Cloud Ride for the super armor and just like linger it. And it wouldn't use any stamina, but now like you always use stamina, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. I'm going to probably get hate from both of you for this, but I actually am glad that uses stamina, because recently a friend of mine have been fighting each other on Tamer, and one of his main complaints with Tamer, he started playing Tamer, you know, Barracker. One of his main complaints about Tamer is that the class feels like it has like it just really doesn't use that much stamina. Like you can stay in a fight for a really long time. I know it does if you spam like WW nonstop, but I don't know. His feeling is like, dude, I literally don't have to look at the stamina bar. And I don't know, sometimes it feels like that. I mean, I guess it depends on the matchups, right? If you're against like a Suck Ninja or something that puts constant pressure on you, you could feel like it. But for the most part, I don't know. Its stamina consumption doesn't seem that hard to deal with for how protected it is. Do you guys hate me for that?
I personally agree for the most part, but I think
Yeah.
the thing I really wanted was just for Cloud Stomp or like the flow to actually work if you're like in a suck and like not having collision issues. And
Right.
I think the best way to go about this is to make the first part, like when you're going into the air, super armor, so you can still punish it, right? You can still grab someone who's using the animation, but make the second part an iframe, because the main issue comes from like the second part where you get like hit by projectiles and you just like land
Right.
prematurely, no protection, or you get sucked and you can't like get out of the suck. So I think the best way to just address it is just to make the second part an iframe.
It's this.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think it's pretty fucking stupid that they took away the iframe on Cloud Ride because it was quote quote too strong, and then they literally gave a version to Guardian where the iframe starts before the character even takes off into the sky, and you fly even further away with no resource cost at all.
And Corsair.
And you can use it while you're being block stunned by putting on the hotbar with like Infernal Nemesis. So it's like I don't know. I don't see why it's not iframe anymore. If Guardian was given an even better version of it, but that's just kind of like an old salty thorn in my side from someone that played it before pre-nerf back in 2018.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it being iframe, except that tree climb exists, and you guys are always in iframe all the time. So it's like, I'm just like the idea.
Yeah.
On one hand, I'm like, dude, that makes total sense for that skill, like in a vacuum. And then I'm like, dude, imagine Tamer getting a whole nother iframe, and that was like a long iframe too, because the animation's pretty long. So it's like, I'm like, oh my god, does it need a whole nother iframe? I don't even know.
That's kind of why I want the second part to be an iframe, because the second, like, you're not really taking damage usually in most cases on the second part. I guess like from a range class you might be, but the first part is like the main part you're actually going to take damage from, and you're going to get like punished by a grab. But the second part, just making that an iframe, the main thing it fixes is like the vacuum issues and the projectile issues.
It's the same thing Zerkers complain about with Giant Sleep, right? Where it's like, I'm in iframe, or they're supposed to be in iframe, and it's really not. It starts like a little bit too late, so they get hit stuttered out of it, or don't move, or get slowed, or whatever. Yeah.
Overall, though, I will say I think it's a good thing that they merged the two, because I looking at Tamer's Awaken kit. Over half the abilities aren't even actual abilities, and it's just bloat that could have anything else there. So, for example, Cloud Stomping and Cloud Ride, that takes up 2 slots when that could have just been one ability like it is now. Rain Curtain, it's a whole skill slot to say, oh, you gain 20 DP if you block for like 4 seconds.
Yeah.
They have a little like a flow intimidation where it's like the first hit of Beast Rampage has a chance to float. It's like that doesn't need to be a skill. You have Flow Ascension and Flow Moonlight, which is just like if you press L and B after Garuda or Moonlight, you'll do a swipe. Like you have all of these extras like that shouldn't even be there. Or like Flow Soaring Strike, you know, hold all around spinner for long enough and it'll do an extra swipe. So, and even leaves dropping, right? If you do leaves once, it does leaf dropping. If you do it second, it does gust. So it's like you have a lot of bloat there that could easily be other skills. So I think it's good if they kind of clean some of these up and merge them into other skills because they shouldn't be separate by themselves.
Ironically, you also have like the one skill in Legendary Beast Dance that has 4 different abilities combined in the one.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's so weird.
All right, so what about the distance, the movement distance and the attack range on these? So I was messing with it, like I'm trying to think of a measurement, like maybe it goes like a character length or 2 further when you use the flow on Cloud Ride.
Can we use Teemos?
Teemos? Like
Teemos.
The League character?
Yeah, the little mushroom from League of Legends.
Okay.
Like how many Teemo body units is it further?
All right, how many Teemos further is it?
I mean, it was like 2, like basically like half the distance that a legendary beast power would send you extra. Like it's not a crazy bit, but it's a decent bit.
Are you talking about Cloud Ride?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was talking about Moonlight Strike.
Oh no, I'm talking about Cloud Ride. I'm talking about Cloud Ride first. Sorry.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the floated Cloud Ride.
I like the damage at least. I like the animation looks different, right? Like so, but I don't think the damage on that skill like even matters in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, if you're using Cloud Ride to initiate, you're already dead.
Well,
if we're being honest,
I don't know if this is new or not because it's been a little while since I played Tamer. But back in the day, we couldn't just hold F to go into Moonlight Strike. Is that new with the rework? Because I don't see that noted here either. So that was kind of interesting. So if you go like, if you press SF, hold R and B, and just hold F, it actually goes directly into Moonlight Strike with no opening automatically. Has that always been a thing? Because before when I played Tamer, you had to cancel with either shift space or like you would use forward F after, but it was like, I don't know. It was like kind of jank.
I mean, you can already chain them together with no gap. Going into Moonlight Strike after you do Cloud Ride, there's no gap in the super armor.
Okay. So they just made it easier by holding F, I guess. Or is that even new?
I think that's been in the game
the
whole time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know Balance is an avid believer in the Moonlight Strike core.
He is.
So he's like a god at managing those super armors and lingering to stay protected to fit for those or fish for those super armors, and I see him do it a lot.
Yeah, no, it's busted. All right. So we talked about Beast Rampage earlier. Flow Intimidation. What kind of changed with that and the interaction with Beast Rampage? Because it says that after additional hit has been improved, so it can be linked with Flow Intimidation. So if you just hold Beast Rampage long enough, it does Intimidation after as well, like an additional hit.
It doesn't do the intimidation itself. So Beast Rampage has always had like 4 parts to it. And then but what they changed is that intimidation flows better at the end, like after Beast Rampage if you use intimidation.
Okay. Yeah, because currently a lot of the times you'll like, let's say you get a grab, DP debuff them, you'll use intimidation from a hotbar for the re-CC into the Beast Rampage, but the change basically makes it viable to use more like at the end of Beast Rampage, the way that I understand that change.
Yeah.
Right.
So like there's not like a little stutter / delay.
Looking at the your Void Lightning thing that you just sent me, I barely am seeing this now. Yeah, so you can like cast it. That's pretty cool because you can move. It's like people are gonna get caught by that Void Lightning trap, the range one for sure. Okay, so and then the AoE size is bigger, and it's pretty noticeably bigger. Is the animation different? I feel like it's like slightly different.
Super particly intimidation and Beast Rampage. They made them super flashy,
more
sparkly, A lot of particles, yeah.
I think they look cool. Like visually, they look really nice. All right, Garuda. They changed the down attack to apply on the to be applied to the first hit. The air smash effect has been removed from the extra hit, and the reduced number of PvP hits has been removed. So Garuda just got a straight damage buff in PvP. I don't know. Any thoughts on this? I guess your combo damage is improved.
It's like a little better. It doesn't change much for me because I'm a avid believer in not using Garuda, and I probably
Yeah.
still won't use it. But I know people who do like to use it, and like it helps a little bit, but it isn't like a big change overall.
Them removing the air smash on Garuda is nice because like Tamer has this weird thing where it's like a lot of classes, if you get a down smash or an air smash, it's good. But with Tamer, if you get an air smash or a down smash, it usually like screws you over because you don't have the reach to follow up on it. So a lot of times it just leads to them getting away, right? Just because like the attack range of Beast Rampage and stuff is so small. So that is nice that they're getting rid of that. But I don't like to use Garuda a lot because it's so vulnerable.
Right.
But I think it will be good for people that like to use it as a combo extender / to get that awaken magic DP shred.
How many hits is it reduced in PvP?
Any hits or damage?
Well,
It takes it.
the hits. Let me look on. Codex.
It has 3 less hits for PvP.
Okay, so that's a pretty big damage buff.
Yeah, it says -3 hits for PvP only.
Interesting. Yeah, that's actually huge. And then down attack on the first part as well. Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be like kind of insane.
So
Depends on how much they PvP reduce it.
I do think Garuda might be like more viable, but not because Garuda got buffed, but how intimidation flows after Beast Rampage now. And Beast Rampage actually has a down smash at the end of it now. So at least for comboing for me, I normally use like intimidation as my re-CC, but now I might hold it till the end of my combos, and then I need like a new float, and I'd probably just use Garuda there instead.
Yeah. Well, so right now the current version, it's 1397 times 3 and then 1497 times 4 on the extra hit, and it reduces 3 hits. So it's effectively doubling its PvP damage, and the damage reduction in PvP didn't change. It's still 22%, I believe, and 48% on the extra hit. Okay, so Flow Ascension got changed kind of a lot, but I don't know if the animation looks kind of similar. Maybe like there's like black ink on the ground now a little bit, but is the AoE any bigger? Looks the same.
It feels the same.
Feels the same. So the flow, it says, let's see, skills hit rate, critical chance, PvP damage, number of hits have been adjusted accordingly. It no longer is affected by like the Garuda skill damage. It's just its own thing, and it's like, I don't know, 1300% times 6 or times 7. Is that right?
Yeah, 1302 times 6.
Yeah. What's the crit rate and the accuracy on it now?
Accuracy is 15 and crit is 100, which is pretty good.
Yeah. That's actually pretty big.
The accuracy part is pretty nice, yeah.
Yeah.
So, because Tamer on her abilities, she does have the accuracy passive, which is nice, but the abilities themselves don't really have high accuracy modifiers, except for Garuda, which has a 15%, but it -3 hits in PvP, so it doesn't do a lot of damage. So it could be nice. Like it could end up being one of those things where it's like, even though it itself doesn't do the most damage, having that extra accuracy on the ability to hit someone that's like a full evasion meme, it could end up being really good damage just from the accuracy and it not being affected by the minus hits anymore, to be honest.
Right. All right. Moonlight Strike got some changes as well. The movement distance increased, although it's a minor amount, right? Is it noticeable?
Not really.
All
At
right.
least
It's
for
just
me.
a little bit. It's not like a huge difference. It literally feels like 1 or 2 character models longer. Not really big, but it's a little noticeable.
And the number of hits have been changed to be the same as the third stage, and it says they reduced the number of hits in PvP, but then adjusted the PvP damage accordingly. What is the current on level 3 of Moonstrike? How much PvP damage reduction does it have balanced? Do you know?
I'm on Global Labs.
Yeah.
On Global Labs, it's 50.
I got it.
Oh, it's 50?
Yeah,
Okay.
Currently on live, it's minus 26% and
Okay.
minus 2 hits for PvP.
Okay, so it sounds like it's going to do the same damage then, because they remove the minus hits, but then increase the PvP reduction. And then Flow Full Moon, which actually does have kind of a way fancier animation. Let's see. So the behavior of the skills changed. The attack range has been increased. Skill damage has been adjusted. Instead of consuming stamina when using the skill, it's been changed to consume stamina. The effect of rotate target upon successful hits has been removed, and bound applied to monsters only has been added. Down smash has been added. After using the skill, it's been changed to linked with 3 hits of sky tick training. So now if you just press LMB at the very end of Flow Full Moon, you get the accuracy buff from your auto attack, and then they reduced the number of hits, or the reduction in PvP hits has been removed, but then they adjusted the damage accordingly anyway. So how much different is this for you guys in your experience?
It's way better than it is on live. So now you can. It used to cost stamina to use. Now you can. It doesn't use stamina, and you regen stamina in the animation.
Ah, okay.
So do you know about the accuracy buff that you get from like Slam into Beast Rampage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Full Moon counts as 2 auto attacks. So you could use Full Moon and then either 1 auto attack or Beast Rampage after and get the accuracy buff.
Nice. And then
I like the Full Moon change, especially like even now on live. I like to use it sometimes in group stuff because it's like you have that little extra super armor extension past Moonlight to like fish for someone dodging to avoid your grab, and then you can beast power into them and then get the grab anyway. So I like it for like fishing for abilities with a little bit of protection. So that change overall is going to be nice because more ways to apply the accuracy passive is always good.
is the AoE size noticeable? The difference?
Or
the attack range?
Like it's like a little circle in front of you, which is a little like it's like a little bigger, but it's like not that different.
Yeah, the current one is like you kind of dash forward and then you do like a swipe, just like a little tiny swipe ahead of you, in front of you. This one, she does like a smackdown, and it's one of those things where it's like it's not increasing your ability to hit someone in front of you, but it's a little tiny sliver to the left and to the right. Whereas, on live, someone may have gotten out of it due to desync. You may possibly, still clip them in with the change, but it's not like a massive increase.
I think a big thing with it is it gives us a way to get the accuracy buff while staying protected in like group play.
Right. I mean, you still have to. Oh yeah. I guess because Beast Rampage, you use the core, right, in group PvP.
Yeah, and like Slam is how you normally get it, and it's like unprotected.
Right. What is the damage number on it on Global Labs? There's 1347 on live. Is it still 1347 times 7 on Global Labs?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right, cool. And then All Around Spinner. I think All Around Spinner itself didn't change at all. They didn't even touch it. Does the animation look any different on Spinner, or is it the exact same?
Seems like the same.
Okay. And then, but the flow, which is kind of a big deal, I believe they lowered the cooldown of the flow and made it so you can use it from hotbar completely independent. And it no longer takes All Around Spinner's damage. It has its own modifier now.
Yeah, I personally think the new like split is actually good. I know a lot of people like don't really care about it, but I think it's nice because it gives us like another protected damage option. It's not like super good damage, but it's like better than using Spinner because Spinner's like has crazy damage reduction in PvP, so it doesn't really do much damage, and it has like a wind up to it. You can like speed up the wind up before the damage comes out, but it still is like all the damage is still at like the back end of the skill animation.
What's the
on live it has a 65% PvP damage reduction. So like a lot of the times I more so would just even use it for the frontal more so than even the PvP damage. So being able to cut straight to the last hit for like a little short frontal guard smack is nice.
What's the skill description balance? Could you read the modifiers and everything?
1301 times 6, 100% crit, 8% accuracy, and it looks like 40% damage reduction in PvP.
Yeah, that's nice. That's actually really cool. And it doesn't. The other thing that's kind of crazy about it is it lost the 2 hits. I mean, it doesn't lose the 2 hits anymore, right? Like it doesn't have -2 hits in PvP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot too. Yeah, that does it still move you forward? Does it still leap you forward?
A little. It's pretty small though.
It's less though, right? Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. The animation for it looks pretty cool too. I don't know if it's in this demo. I think it is, but the AoE size on it, is it increased as well, or does it seem the same?
It feels like similar, maybe a little bigger, but the AoE on it is still like pretty small.
Right.
Yeah, that's one that's really hard to gauge because it's like in the current game you don't use it as much, so like not too keen on like what the or how to feel for the AoE range, you know?
Yeah, it's actually so crazy that it was ever an 18-second cooldown. Like, it's just not justifiable at all. Like, why is it an 18-second cooldown? That's my hope for Kuno, dude. That suck Kuno gets some cooldown changes, God. All right. Hold on, let me go back to this. Okay, so Legendary Beast Dance. So I don't know. This one like seems kind of weird to me because they deleted the effects of some of the different variations of Beast Dance, but didn't add them all. So I feel like in some ways, does it no longer have the burn at all if you use Vermilion Bird?
Yeah. No
See,
burn.
I think that's so dumb. I think it would have been way cooler if they just added this effect to everything.
Yeah, it took away the majority of them, and you just have the little slow. Basically, it's like the TLDR on that, which is kind of really odd, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You didn't really use most of them anyway, but yeah.
I think the main benefit from this now is that I used, at least whenever I'm running Legendary Beast Dance Core, I just use Azure Dragon most of the time because it has a slow on it. But now I can just use Vermilion, which is like the superior animation because the AoE is like way easier to hit, and I can still apply the slow.
Yeah, I just feel like having the burn and the all DP would have been super nice on all of the abilities.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that they changed Black Turtle in general because that one's like the most fun to use. It just sucks.
Yeah, I like the animation of the turtle where you just smash down. Right?
Yeah.
It's weird because back in the day, that one actually was the highest damage until they reworked him.
Yeah, and then the other thing is it actually did get a damage buff in PvP in that they made the crit apply to PvP as well. But then also adjusted the PvP damage, and I don't know by how much. What's the PvP damage reduction on it now on Global Labs?
50%.
Oh, really?
I think that's a worthwhile trade. So you gained 50% crit on it, and the current PvP reduction is 48.6. So we just lost an extra 1.5% damage for having the 50% crit. So I think that's a nice trade off in terms of the damage department. It's just more so like the effects. Losing the effects are kind of weird, and the slow only lasts 5 seconds. Instead, most classes have like a 10-second. But it's good though, because like fuck slows. Even if they're on my class, I hate slows. So.
The same. I don't like losing the burn though, and I think the DP is cool because, while I know you guys do get the DP for blocking, it like weirdly doesn't give it to you unless you blocked for a second or two, which I always kind of hated. And I don't like one of the things about Tamer that everyone complains about is that it's squishy. And if they gave Vermilion Bird at least for large scale, because I know a lot of people use Legendary Beast Dance for large scale too, or at least like some group stuff. Like having that DP would be kind of cool. It's kind of lame that got taken.
Yeah, I think one of the skills having like some sort of DP buff besides the block would be really nice for the class.
Yeah. And then Echo Pierce, they removed Ultimate Echo Pierce. This one I didn't fully understand because they didn't note it anywhere in here. But I noticed, oh wait, yeah, they did. Okay, so the basic attack range of the skill has been applied to the attack range of the Ultimate Echo Pierce. Accordingly, the activation speed is the same. The damage of the skill has been adjusted accordingly. The effect reducing number of hits removed, and the damage dealt in PvP adjusted accordingly. So, is this just effectively you just always have the ultimate now? It's 2 hits in front of you? Okay. Is it slow? Because I know some people took the or didn't take the ultimate to just have like the quicker hit, is that just now not an option? So kind of a nerf for those people?
I guess I always use ultimate.
Yeah, because like it used to be more prevalent back in the day. So when they first added the ultimate version was just a buttload slower. But I don't remember what year, but they at one point they did like a change to the animation speed. Because I remember balance. I remember there were some combos back in the day before ultimate where you would weave in like 3 uses of Echo Pierce. But yeah, those days are kind of long gone.
I actually like those old combos because what you used to do is you try to stand to the side of the person, and then both hits from the forward and the back of Echo would hit them.
Yeah, if you like lined up beside their body, yeah.
Yeah.
I missed the super armor stun. It was so good. Nayashi, do you have any thoughts on the rework so far? I want to talk about what you guys want to see after, but I'm curious, Nayashi, if you want to give us a breakdown while I use the restroom of your thoughts from what you've heard so far.
I mean, to me, honestly, it sounds like a lot of the things that you guys needed were, for the most part, addressed in some capacity. Seemed like you guys were pretty happy with a lot of the changes. So, do you feel like, I mean, based on what I heard, though, it seems like your guys' role in large scale probably didn't really change much. Like as
Yeah.
far as your tier position in large scale. So, I mean, that's kind of still a bummer for you guys for sure.
I'm
mean-
trying to make myself be a little more positive about it, more so because if you look at like the first couple lines of the thing, they said that they still are reworking 2 skills, roaring and breath spike, and
Yeah.
they're adding a new skill where they took away cloud ride. So like depending on how good that new skill is, it could
Yeah.
change the entire thing, right?
Yeah, it could give you some sort of utility or, SA trade skill that you guys desperately needed for large scale or yeah. I mean, ultimately you guys are still squishy, so that's always going to be a common issue that you're going to run into with large scale, so although nowadays who isn't squishy?
I think overall, like there's like good parts about the rework, but I feel like what really happened is they just moved stuff around. Like they moved like not protections, but like damage around and stuff like that. But it doesn't feel like anything about the class identity or like how it is right now on live really changed in
you guys like you said, they basically just shifted a few things around and maybe up some damage numbers so you feel more modern, but ultimately still kind of the same sort of major issues with large scale.
So let's say, because we saw kind of with Ranger and Warrior, and then they sort of halted it with the rest of classes, but obviously there's going to be like multiple weeks of changes once they finish the rest of the reworks. I guess with Succession first, Balance, what are you hoping that they still add for Succession?
They need. This is like a lot of work, so I don't think they're gonna end up doing this. But they need to like rework the cheesy playstyle of Succession. Like they need more power into the actual Tamer abilities themselves, like Lightning of Earth, and less power into the pet traps.
Euchre for Succession first.
I 100% agree with that on the Succession because it's like it's not very intuitive to play against and it's not very intuitive to play as. You're basically just rotating Roaring and Void Lightning for them to get a catch. You fish for your grab. If you don't get the grab, you cancel it with WW, and then you rinse and repeat, bounce around and keep fishing until they get stunned or you get desync call in WW through the gap. So it would be really nice if they somehow figured a way to make this Heilang mounted combat actually good. I would take that over the current playstyle any day. They just got to figure out. For Succession.
What if they made the Heilang combat where you move just as fast as a Nova?
Oh God.
Well, I was gonna say, what could they do? Let's say hypothetically speaking, they did adjust that, but what could they do, or what would you hope they would do for Succession specifically for large scale to improve it in large scale? Like, what specific changes does Suck need to make it like, oh, you could actually take this to a node war?
It needs protection on its damage skills. Right now, it has none. Basically, most of Succession's damage comes from the Raboms, and then yeah, basically just the Raboms. It needs like some sort of protected damage that it just doesn't have.
I would like them to keep indexing for Succession to be almost completely Heilang mounted combat. Personally, I would like if they found some kind of way to make it so that Heilang is killable in a decent capacity, but while she's mounted on him, he he eats a portion of the damage. Because like currently you'll just get blasted before you can do anything, and I think that would be a pretty cool playstyle, honestly. Like just riding around on the dog, smacking people with stiffens, and kind of getting into the thick of it, right? And there's counterplay because you don't really have any protections while on the dog, so you're face tanking the damage, but make it so that it's not just like a one shot before you can do anything. Like I like the concept of the Heilang mounted combat.
All right, so for Awakening, I mean, you both seem like positive on what the changes are, but then when it comes to large scale, you feel like it's not going to be enough. So what, Khur, you first, what I don't know, what are you still hoping that they change? Because there probably will be some, like, I'll give an example of a major change for Ranger that actually changed twice. So they have that new skill that's an AoE called Spirit Galaxy that got, it was just super armor damage, which I thought was pretty cool. And then week 2, they removed the super armor from it. And then week 3, they added the super armor back. So they're willing to make pretty major changes to a skill like that, like adding or removing protection. So what specifically you're hoping for, I guess, for large scale, like to be more large scale focused for Awakening?
I don't know. Tamer is really a really weird one for large scale in the sense that it's like, or like group content where it's like, if someone's a ninja god or a sork god, they can go into large scale PvP and do really well. And you can tell that there's that learning curve / performance curve there, right? But where it's like with Tamer, even if you're like a god on the class, you're really limited on your performance. I feel like she just needs more ways to get that damage off in large scale. And in exchange, maybe toning down her 1v1 potential a decent bit in exchange. Like I think that would be a really nice trade. But how they accomplish that, I'm not exactly sure. And I don't think it's like a one thing could change things. But it would be really nice if they, like, depending on what that new skill is that they said they're going to change, that they're going to add, and the 2 changes to Roaring and Breath Spike, it could be, it could be what she needs.
Right. So Tamer is getting I actually didn't even read that. This is how behind I am because of the trip. So they said that Tamer's going to get a new skill still?
Yeah. So if you look, go to the BDO Foundry global notes, the first box of blue text, look up there and read that.
Right. So in addition, new skill will be added in place where the flow cloud riding skills disappeared. Cool.
Yeah. And then they said there will be further reworking Roaring and I think Breath Spike. I think that's what it said in the sentence before or after it. So depending on what they do with those 3 skills, we could be seeing a completely different like outcome, right?
Pull resonance stab. Is that the Rabam?
Yeah, that's the way I understand it. That's the level 58 Rabam Breath Spike that you flow into out of Jolt Stab.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, got it. The new skill could be interesting. So the Sork had the same thing where they didn't get their new skill for a week. And then when they got it, it's kind of like a AoE super armor ability, but it's actually pretty crazy because they ended up removing core blades as an option and adding that new skill as one of their cores. So it's possible this new skill is actually pretty impactful. Maybe. I guess it just depends what it is.
I mean, right? Like it's one of those things where it's like it could be seismic blast tier, or it could not, right? So it just depends on what side it's gonna fall on.
Could it be seismic blast tier? I don't know if it's gonna be seismic blast tier. That's high. That's high. That's some high hopes.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Not a lot of skills that are seismic blast tier. Overall,
I will say that I think that this is seeing the Tamer rework should feel good to a lot of diehards for their classes that haven't yet gotten reworked because they did some changes and move arounds that didn't hurt the identity slash feel of the class.
Right.
And considering she's one of the oldest classes, that was one of my biggest things where it's like, sure, okay, I don't expect the class to become instantly meta or broken, but don't change what I love about the class that I've played for half a decade now. And they did do a good job of playing safe and not hurting the core feel. I don't know if balance feels the same, but
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, Divios is saying a lot could happen. Suck Striker week 1 felt like this felt the same with Rage Hammer Discharge. Week 2 on it feels like a whole new class in every good way possible. So, I mean, there's been a lot of changes at like week 2 and 3, so who knows? Especially when there's an entire new skill nut in there. You never know. Balance for you, like your major hope for Awakening with future changes?
Slam super armor. Get rid or frontal. Like honestly, like just some sort of protection. Maybe make it like cancelable earlier into the animation.
If the new skill ends up being like protected damage, then does Celestial Slam really need it, or would you be fine with leaving it?
I'd be more inclined to leave it. I guess it depends on like how that new skill like fits into the kit though.
I'm gonna laugh if it's just like a unprotected damage, single target damage skill.
Yeah, that
a new
that
combo skill.
Yeah.
even further boosting her 1v1, which is like, why?
I'd like a Beast Rampage to be a little bit bigger AoE, and they made it bigger, which I'm glad about. But
A little bit bigger.
Like-
yeah. Someone else was saying Legendary Beast Dance too. It's kind of unfortunate it didn't get any AoE size increase.
yeah,
I mean, I had a really nice idea where they could incorporate free because like it seems like they want legendary beast dance to be her main skill, right? Like her main damage skill because the other skills don't do as much damage. I was hoping that they would somehow incorporate legendary beast dance because you have the 4 stances that you hardly ever use. Make it so that whichever one you use last empowers legendary or beast rampage with a different effect for like 5 seconds or something. That's what I was kind of hoping for. And, maybe they'd figure out how to do something like that. But, yeah.
Yeah. Legendary Beast Pants is the
I
new
think-
skill.
The other thing they could do is move the Beast Rampage AoE to be like a little more in front of you instead of around you. It feels kind of like Lon's Blade Dance, basically. It feels like very similar to that skill.
Yeah. It looks like it too now with the animation change, to be honest.
Yeah.
Kind of has the same vibe. Is there anything with your guys' mobility or going in and out? Like one of the things warriors complain about is disengaging. Do you guys feel like your disengage is decent? I know you were complaining about the iframe on Cloud Ride, or at least on the flow portion. Is that the only real thing you feel like it needs, or does it have like ways to get out of sticky situation?
I think making that an iframe would make it like mostly what it needs. I do think the class is like pretty slow though compared to a lot of the modern classes just from like point A to point B movement, but the main thing is definitely just like Cloud Ride iframe.
Yeah, like as a tamer, I feel like, once you get in, you're either in till you die or they die. The best way to get out is to, hope they die before you die, which used to be different, which is one of the main reasons why Cloud Ride was originally nerfed, where it's like, okay, if you're in over your head, you could pop Cloud Ride, sort of like Guardians do Infernal Nemesis and fly out, right?
Right.
But yeah.
I think like the main, at least when I'm like in group fights or anything, I'm not like getting out by outrunning whoever I'm fighting against or like just running away from them. I usually have to use terrain to like put myself in a really weird situation that is not favorable to chase me in.
Yeah.
But again, I am not on this train of increase every class's mobility insanely, and every class has to be like Awakened Nova. To make that clear, like, yeah, it's she's not as mobile as a lot of other classes, but she is more mobile than some classes. It's just that they I would more so rather they tone down mobility as a whole and add more about controlling that movement that you do have and finessing it appropriately, more so than just every class teleporting across your screen, you know?
Yeah. Do you guys like design wise, like the animation changes? Do you like what they did with the animations?
They look cooler, which I like.
Yeah, dude. Tamer's animations are always top tier with like the blue lightning and the black ink strokes and things like that. It's always top tier.
All right, let's talk about this Dark Knight and Valkyrie little teaser that we got, which is interesting because they literally have zero pattern for releasing these classes. Like week 1 we get previews ahead of time. Week 2 we get video the day Striker comes out. Week 3 we get no video. Week 4 we get no rework. Week 5 we just get updates and no rework. It's like been so random. I don't know what the hell.
They basically just heard that, you know, we were expecting it to be in the order of how it is in the marketplace, and they're like, yeah, let's go ahead and like not do that.
I also don't know how they plan on fitting 5 classes in like in 1 week. They are doing 1 or 2 every week.
Well, my guess, honestly, is I think that they're all around the relatively the same like amount of progress is already done on them, and they just expect them all to be done around that time. It's the only thing that actually makes sense to me, but I don't know. Who knows? Like, I don't think it's like. I think because the way it's being released, a lot of people think they're like, oh, okay, we finished Warrior, now we're working on Striker, and it's like, hey, Striker's done. Now I think all of them are like pretty close to being done, and they're just releasing them when they actually are finished, or at least when they feel they're mostly finished. So my guess is Witch, Wizard, Musamewa, like that's supposed to come on the 22nd, is pretty close to being done. Otherwise, it would probably be pushed back to the last week. But who knows? I guess we'll see. So with their schedule, they announced that Tamer's coming on the 8th, or Tamer came on the 8th. Valkyrie and Dark Knight are coming next Friday. And then October 22nd is going to be Witch, Wizard, Musamewa. And then the 29th is going to be Kuno, Ninja, Mystic, Lawn, and Zerker. So 5 of them on that last week. And they are not making any major changes based on feedback between any of these launches. They're waiting until all of them are out before they do that. The only ones that are going to get changes are like Tamer, since it's getting the new skill. And whatever classes, like literally where just something wasn't done yet. So they're releasing it the following week. So next week is going to be Valk and Dark Knight. And did you guys watch the skill teasers for these?
I did not.
Yeah, I did.
So I will I'm gonna stream this to you on Discord so you could see it in real time as we watch it. Let me know if
just
you can
so
see
we
this.
don't get flamed by the Dark Knight community. Dark Knight is weak and needs to be buffed. she does no damage and she has infinite gaps in her skills.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Poor Dark Knights. All right, so this is the Valkyrie one. Both with Valkyrie and Dark Knight, they show Succession first and then Awakening. So this is kind of like what the animations look like. I don't know. They like Shield Throw to me looks a little bit different. I think the way the start of Judgment of Light looks is a little bit different. And then it just shows a combo, and that's kind of all they show for Suck. And then they show a little bit more on Awakening. I'm really curious like how this class is going to feel when it's all done, because Valkyrie is like one of these classes that I've been thinking about trying, but I only Node War and I don't want to be an alt bot personally. So like one of the things is whatever they do with the teleport on this Awakened Valk, the teleport and then that skill that happens after it looks kind of crazy. Like it happens so quickly after. So this is the Valkyrie one. The Valkyrie skills, I think, because they're all yellow and a lot of pokes, they kind of all look the same. So people don't really notice like what's different on them. And let me pull up the Dark Knight one real quick. Here we go. And then this is the Dark Knight one. The Dark Knight one to me looks way more flashy. Like, I mean, they just starting with this first ability, like the Obsidian Ashes looks a little bit different. Wheel of Fortune's AoE looks kind of insane. Lunacy's AoE looks kind of insane.
They literally took what Tamer needed and gave it to Dark Knight, basically. A class that already has a shit ton of damage and a shit ton of AoE and gave it more AoE. It's like, it's kind of weird, but yeah.
They have this new spinning slash thing that happens after airstrike, which looks pretty cool. And then this, which kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, almost like it's like a 3-card Monty with like these roses, I guess. I don't know. Like it looks like you just stay invisible and then you kind of come out when you want. Or you come out, or you could come out before the end of the animation. And then Awakening shows, I don't know if this is, so first they show Grip of Grudge, which is interesting. They don't show it on anything, but they show Grip of Grudge, which every Dark Knight knows that skill has not been used since it came out. But they show what looks like Shattering, or a variant of Shattering, or a new skill that kind of looks like Shattering, where it's just like an AoE in front of them. Might be an entirely new skill, I don't know. And then they show kind of like a whole combination of stuff. And it looks insane to me. I don't know. Like the way everything looks is kind of nuts.
Seems like most of the changes were in pre-awakening.
Yeah. So this is Awakening, right? Or this end is Awakening, right? Or am I nuts?
The only thing
It
that
has-
looks like they changed is that like shattering skill in
Well-
awakening, right?
Yeah, maybe. Because they do, he uses Seed, right? The little seed thing to scoot back. And I think he uses Dark Nebula right there too. Yeah, so this is definitely Awakening here. And that skill has a core, right? That looks like a core version. It has those like explosions like the core.
Yeah.
So maybe that is Shattering. But I think if that is Shattering and Shattering doesn't move you backwards, people are going to be pissed. But it might just be a new skill entirely. I don't know. Yeah, not Seed. Sorry, Trap of Vidir. I didn't mean Seed. It looks like Trap of Vidir. So he does like Spirit Legacy, Dark Nebula, and then it looks like Trap of Vidir to scoot back, and then he uses this, either this new skill or this new version of Shattering, whatever it is. Not exactly sure what it is, but it definitely has a core attached to it. Let me see if he does it in this first part. Yeah, this part doesn't look like it has the core. Am I crazy in seeing the core animation? Like on the end here? Like it looks like it has those purple explosions that core skills have. But I don't know. Anyway, the animations look freaking cool on this. So I don't know. Did you guys have any first impressions or any feelings on those skills?
They
Or-
made Wheel and Lunacy way bigger.
They did, dude. They made Wheel freaking huge. I don't know.
Do you guys think the DK community will still spread propaganda that the class is weak and unplayable even after this?
It's definitely a really bad and unplayable class, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
It looks like that like new flow out of airstrike still like there's still a unprotected point, right, with airstrike. I wonder if like you can like cancel airstrike pretty well with it.
Yeah, with that new one. I don't know, because it looked like it happens after. But it's hard to tell. This was the other one. I don't know, the Valk one, it's hard to like be excited about because it's they didn't really show anything like too crazy with it. This is the new Shai. So Shai is one of the classes that is not getting reworked, but they showed off 2 new abilities anyway, which makes me wonder if some of the older, wait, let me see, how do I phrase this? Some of the older, newer classes might get some stuff like Guardian and Hash, since they're not quite, Nova level, like Awaken Hash anyway. Because I know it's been one of the things, I know a lot of Guardians are like, dude, like we're gonna be so far behind after these reworks. And then Shai was just one of these classes that feels like needs to be reworked anyway. But anyway, so these are the new Shai abilities. They only show 2, so it's like one. That kind of looks like that Meiwa skill to me, and then a Doki V skill where you throw your boomerang down and slide on it, which actually looks like a lot of movement, and they use it like back to back.
That's really good because Shai's movement in the current game is atrocious, bro. Really atrocious.
Yeah, it is. But the flooring attack skill is weird. It looks like God, what is that skill? Is Nayashe back? He said he'll be right back. There's a Meiwa skill where like they slash and I think it's like the flow to blooming or whatever, like where you just see like a tornado in front of them. It's like what this looks like.
Yeah.
Cyclone Slash, yeah, that one. That's what it looks like. And then the skateboard. I don't know. It looks kind of cool, and I guess
I think that's
exciting.
nice. Yeah, because it's like, well, it's like even if your class isn't one of the first 17, you know, there might be something that they feel you need.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the little boomerang ride was ported over from mobile because she's had that on mobile for a long time now. So I mean, there's nothing that says that they couldn't give anything to some of those like in between classes, right? Like you said, like Hash and Guardian and Shy and such.
Yeah, like obviously Corsair and Sage don't need anything, but I do feel like, and maybe even Suck Hash, it feels pretty modern. But some of the like Guardian, I could see Guardians feeling like, I don't know, a little bit outdated once all these reworks are out when you compare to the new classes, and then Awaken Hash too a little bit. I don't know, but I don't know like how excited I should be. You know, like I basically am like maining Hash right now, and in Node War it's crazy. Like it has so much, like on paper it has everything you need for large scale, but then like the damage output is so slow that you have to stay there for so long to kill somebody that it's like really difficult to actually secure a kill.
It'd be nice to see some Succession Guardian changes. That's kind of like the forgotten spec. It hasn't really had anything happen to it for a long time now, anything meaningful. So I'd be cool with some Succession Guardian changes, but I think Awaken Guardian is fine. Dude, Awaken Guardian does what she needs to do. I don't think she needs many changes in that sense, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. Balance, do you have anything tagged or plan to have anything tagged?
I have hashtag, but I have not done anything with my hash in a couple months.
Is there anything like with the reworks that would make you want to tag something else? Like, are
Probably
there any
not.
classes? No. What about you, Khur? I know you're a serial retagger.
Tagging with Tamer is really weird, bro. Because like, let's say for example, if you play, you know, one class, like let's say you play something like Witch Wizard. I mean, it's like those classes they kind of have a similar feel to them, right? Or like if you bouncing from like Sork to Hash or Ninja and things like that, they all fit similar roles and like styles. But Tamer's kind of weird because it's like if you play Tamer, it really isn't another class in the game that gives you that feeling of like pure control over your character like Tamer does, in my opinion. So it's really like, I don't know, tagging to find another class you enjoy is hard with Tamer, more so than like tagging to like goof around with other things. I don't know, maybe Archer has been kind of like a fun thing on seasonal, but it's not very fun in the actual game, sadly, just because of the meta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not too crazy interested in a lot of the reworks other than like seeing what they do to Musa, Mewa, and Kuno.
Why those three?
Just more so because like the olden days, it was such a different game with like Musa, Mewa being everywhere. Were probably some of the most predominantly seen classes in the game, especially during the times where like Gahaz was the peak of the game. And just to have like some more diversity and see things that you don't see often, because I took a lot of time over the last like 2 weeks just spamming seasonal RBF, and I saw so many Kunos and Mooses and Mewas, and it was just like, damn, dude, this is like another game inside the game. It's like we're in a time capsule. And obviously you still had the busted classes, like you'd see your Novas and shit and Corsairs everywhere, but I don't know, I just like to think of a world where you see all of those old classes again. And I'm really curious to see how they bring those back into viability, because I think that's going to be pretty hard. So it's more so from a point of interest, more so than like I want to play that.
Yeah. What classes are you most worried about post rework that you think are gonna end up being way too strong?
The same classes that are already busted: Sork, Ninja, Dark Knight. Yeah, I mean the classes that are already crazy strong. Witch Wizard, because you know Witch Wizard's always strong no matter what.
Yeah, we've seen that world.
I think
Uh,
Warrior's gonna be OP.
you think so?
Yeah.
What about for large scale?
I don't know, but just in general, it feels like all it got was boss after the class is already good.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, Wizard Witch is interesting because there's like some really obvious things that it needs, but then it's like so easy to make it too strong because it has range and massive AoEs. Like we talk about this a lot on the podcast, but would you guys be opposed to Awakening Wiz Witch having split TP?
Probably not. It depends on what else they do with the kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of weird, dude. I don't. I'm more so in favor of lowering the amount of mobility into the game, but making your decisions that you make more meaningful, more so than having tools to make up for you making bad decisions. Personally, so I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of them adding split TP to all variants of Witch Wizard.
Um, should they give Musa and Mewa a grab?
No.
Because like one of the
I-
arguments I made a long time ago was, well, everyone, I think, when you looked at Musa Mewa, was like, well, the mobility is so crazy, it's so precise, it's fully protected. If you gave it a grab, it'd be just so easy to get a grab off. And then like Sage came out, and I was like, I guess that's out the window. I guess that's totally okay. I don't know.
I think that if they gave Musa Mewa a grab, it wouldn't change anything in the sense that it wouldn't ruin the game any more than a lot of these new classes are anyway. So like I think that would be okay, but I don't think it's gonna instantly fix all of their problems. I mean, I think they need more impactful things like chase cleansing slows off of you when it's off cooldown and things like that. More so like just ways to get in, do your damage, and get out, kind of like their old playstyle was, without being screwed by any kind of slows and things. But that's just kind of my opinion. I'm just more in favor of all grabs being nerfed across the board, more so than introducing more grabs. But I think if they did introduce grabs to Musa Mewa, I mean, it's not going to be any more broken than the stuff we already have, right?
I feel like it ruins the class identity, personally. I just feel like with how long the class hasn't had a grab, giving it a grab just like completely changes how the class would function. At least in like 1v1 and small scale.
Do you think, Balance, starting with you first, because this one's kind of, it's a heavy topic. Not everyone agrees. I always see people asking for, with the reworks, either more block break stuff for classes that don't have grabs, or just giving classes that don't have grabs a grab, or adding a parry system, or adding a CC escape or a CC break, all sorts of stuff. Things that you see in fighting games. And one of the main suggestions that I've said is they really should just increase the cooldown of grabs across the board and unify the fact that every grab on fail should have in my opinion, the same amount of downtime as a failed grab, like where you're open, kind of maybe similar to like Ninja Kuno, where you fail a grab, it looks like you're almost stiffening yourself for a half second or whatever. And like the minimum cooldown, in my opinion, like bare minimum cooldown for like a melee grab should be 15 seconds, and if your grab has range, should be 20 or 25. And that way people would just overall be less frustrated because you'd just be getting grabbed less. You'd have more time to deal with a class that has a grab and be aggressive, and you just wouldn't be getting grabbed as often, which I think when people get grabbed, they just get tilted. Because most of the time it's out of mobility or out of something that they're used to being protected in. Your kind of thoughts on grabs in general, Balance, and the idea of changing the cooldowns on them.
So I agree with you, and for the most part, I just feel like if they were to change grab cooldowns, they'd have to balance a lot of classes in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you look at a class like Striker, at least in like 1v1 where grab actually I feel like in group play grab is like kind of whatever. It's still pretty useful, but the smaller the fight, the more impactful it is. And in like 1v1, a class like Striker kind of can't function without its grab. Like the grab is like basically the whole playstyle of the class, right? So you'd have to do a lot of like tuning. But I think you know my opinion on grab. I think grab is like by far like the strongest thing in a class's kit. But I also think grab is actually it's very low floor to utilize, but it's also a really high ceiling to use its full potential.
Khur?
I mean, I think it's one of those things where like I personally would take it as far as like grabs having as much as a 25-30 second cooldown and none of them being protected personally. But at the same token, if they did that, I do think that classes like Sork should not have gapless iframes. And I think that would be a fine trade-off, where it more so comes down to like the art of the catch more so than like focusing purely on the grab. But to say that completely nerfing grabs would fix the game isn't exactly true, because 90% of the time when a Nova kills you, she's not grabbing you, she's killing you standing up. Or Awakened Sage, he 90% of the time isn't killing you grabbing him, even though he can with his range grab. Not 90% of the time you're dying standing up just through the pure damage. Or like, you know, like you nerf grabs to the ground, well then what happens with a class like Sork, who is already able to virtually stay, you know, unpressured, like not hittable for long periods of time, or even with Corsair. So like I think grabs definitely need to be toned down, but in exchange, a class shouldn't be able to chain, you know, iframes for like 14 seconds, you know.
Yeah. This one's a little bit harder to frame, but we'll start with you, Kurt. You guys feeling on SA blocks? Warriors block, Valkyrie block, Nova block, Guardian block. Basically forward guard and SA at the same time.
I don't know, dude. I felt more passionate about this one and were more annoyed about this one back when Suck Hash was like everywhere, with like the block jump going through my block and CCing me anytime I block or use a frontal ability, right? So I felt much more passionate about that one, where like they should all be it or none of them. But yeah, I mean, I think block should just be frontal, especially since like I've been goofing off on like Archer a lot lately as my seasonal character. And it's like, and even in the regular game, if with a lot of classes, if they put up block, they just win, because you can't pressure their block most of the time, because most of the classes that have the SA blocks have some of the highest health pools and base stats in the game, and all of that is calculated into your block as well. So yeah, I don't think block should be SA and frontal.
Balance?
I think it's like a weird balancing idea where classes that don't have grabs can't really deal with it. But like the classes that do have it for the most part kind of need it because they don't have enough like tools outside of it. So I think the best thing to do is is just to like give classes that don't have grabs like ways to actually deal with SA block, or to just remove SA block and give the tools that the classes would need to function without them the tools, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would even be fine with making it so that there's like a trade-off, because in a lot of other games, if somebody's blocking and you hit them while they're blocking, you chip away at their stamina bar as well. So it's like, even if they're staying completely protected, they can't just sit there and turtle behind block and wait on cooldowns and then just mobility away. So I think there's a lot of things that they could do with block to make it so that classes that can't just grab them have options. So
Yeah. We had a like a long time ago when we had Kareem on. He had two interesting ideas for resource consumption in blocks, where either after a second or two your stamina bar starts going down, or after holding block for a second or two you lose the SA, so you only have it when you first start blocking, and then it goes away after like 1.5 or 2 seconds. So you aren't encouraged to just sit there in the block for extra long periods of time. Which I like the idea of both of those. What were you saying?
Yeah, that would be pretty effective against, I think, majority of the classes that sit in block. But a class like Warrior, for example, I don't know if you feel the same way, but feel like stamina bar kind of negligible to them with some of their mobility skills. It'd probably hinder them a little bit, but like if they were completely out of stamina, but
Yeah, it'd more so probably have to be the SA. But then even like with Warrior though, they don't really stay. They don't typically just sit in the block forever.
yeah, typically,
Anyway.
but they can if they need to.
They can if they need to. Yeah. So I don't know. It would be kind of cool if there was some sort of pressure. I mean, one of the things that he pointed out and broke it down like really simply is like, if let's say for example you are a Musa and you're going against a warrior or a guardian or whatever class, when they're in block, typically the only resource that they're losing is their block gauge, which is like one of the most easy resources to manage. Whereas the Musa that's trying to put pressure on you is both putting itself at risk, but also using stamina, using cooldowns, using WP, whatever. It's like going through like its entire set of resources to put pressure on you and typically getting nowhere. Whereas during that time, the warrior's recovering HP and stamina and getting their cooldowns back. So it's like, I don't know. The trade-off just isn't there.
Yeah. That's one of the main drawbacks. And then on top of that, after expending those resources to maybe tickle their interest to engage on you, you basically probably get slowed from them countering with like a Gravedigger or Ground Smash, and it just doesn't end well.
Doesn't end well.
But those are different issues entirely.
Well, what do you think about? So I don't know if you remember when Sage first came out. The Sage block was bugged in the sense that while you were blocking, you didn't regen stamina. Your stamina stopped where it was when you began blocking. So like, what do you think about that as like a solution where it's like, yeah, you can block and stay and like tunnel like that and fish for cooldowns, but you can't use it to regen your stamina bar and
Right.
things like that.
I like the idea, like on Warrior it makes the most sense because they like recover stamina in Fort F, but on some classes like on Guardian, I mean I don't know how much you play Awakened Guardian, Khur, but like Guardian actually does use stamina in combat, and if they didn't recover any in their block would be pretty rough. Like maybe that's why I kind of like the idea of the way Kyreem described it, where it doesn't stamina lock or consume until after like a second of time, so you recover for a second and then it stops, or I don't know, something along those lines. But yeah, that it was interesting. It's funny because on Sage when they did that, then the following patch when they changed it to recover stamina, they also reduced the stamina cost of Rift Chain and a bunch of other things to just make it all of a sudden feel like stamina didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
They just went like full 180. Yeah, I don't know.
If they're going to do that, I hope they just end up, if they're going to continue down that trend with some of these reworks, just remove stamina as a resource then in some capacity. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but then Sork is a thing, and it's
I know. There's issues for sure that would need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's a weird thing as well, because it's like, do you want the whole like triangle where it's like grab classes, counter, block counter classes, which counter like I don't know, crazy damage output classes, but it's like, well, then people there's a meta, so then people only play certain classes. So if you play one of those classes that don't have what you need at the time, which is a SA block or a grab, then you feel bad. But then it's like if you get rid of grabs and nerf grabs to like a 30-second cooldown, then SA block classes like Suck Nova and stuff like that feel crazy oppressive. But then if you don't, I don't know, there's always someone that kind of gets shafted, right, when it comes to these like MMOs. So it's like finding some kind of a balance where everybody feels like they have their role and they're able to be effective to some degree.
At least with the grab cooldown idea, it's not that their grab is no longer effective. It's just that there's a wider window of, opportunity for the
punishment
player. you can still hypothetically, solo grab someone as a warrior example, solo grab, and then the fight's over. So it's just like, okay, in that case, in that particular scenario, that nerf meant literally nothing. But in a case where you're fishing and you miss your grabs here and there, yeah, that can extend a fight and give the opposing player time to pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm in total agreement that grabs across the board should be put down to a 20 cooldown at minimal, 20-second cooldown. And I know a lot of people aren't. That's like a kind of like a hot take, but yeah, I mean, that's coming from a class like Tamer, who has a grab animation that if you fail, you can just WW out of it, right? Like I'm a class that benefits from an easy to use grab, so that's just what I think. I think grabs in general should be toned down a bit, but I also at the same time don't think you should be able to chain together a ton of iframes. So there's like a balance, I guess.
I think you have to go to each class individually. Like I don't think just removing or changing all these systems for everyone really works. I think the best way to do it is just to go to each individual class. Cuz there's classes that have grabs, for example, but are completely significantly weaker than other classes that have grabs, and
Yeah.
same with the SA block. So I think going individually was way better of an idea.
Yeah, it's just
There's just something about the 7-second or 8-second grabs,
yeah, that's still a problem regardless of
Yeah, it's like
going individually. I agree that they should handle some things individually for sure, but I still think the grab cooldowns, being able to apply that kind of pressure in such a little time frame that's
Yeah.
a little much.
Yeah, I've seen this or experienced the other side of this a lot more lately since that I've goofed off on my archer alt, and it's like when you fight a lot of classes like warrior and stuff, where it's like, well, a lot of times, or even lawns, they fly in, they WF fish for the knockdown. If they don't get it, they fish for the range grab, and then they fly away and wait for the cooldown, right? So, and there's not really a lot of counterplay in that sense. So making grabs more punishable, it's definitely something that I'm in favor of. It just, I guess it just depends on how they go about it and if they're willing to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, balance. I'm gonna go ahead and assume I already know how you feel about it, but your thoughts on resistances?
Get rid of them.
Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had God, I want to say over the course of 2.5, almost 3 years. Actually, we're coming up on 3 years of doing this podcast. We've had only one guest that I can remember that thought resists were a good thing, and I think that person has changed their mind or is playing New World full time. So it's like I never run into people that are like, dude, let's keep resists. It's so weird that hasn't been changed. I don't know.
Yeah, resists are such a weird one where it's with resist, there's always going to be a RNG component to whether you win or not. But without resist, then it's if you have the ability to get some kind of range CC off, it becomes crazy oppressive. So there really is a balance, but I don't think that RNG should decide so many of your battles. And I don't think getting rid of resist would have as big of a negative impact on the game now as it would before, since almost every class has some capacity of rotating protections anyway.
Yeah.
So if in a world where we didn't have as many protections as we do now, I think removing resist could be a negative thing. But everybody has so many protected skills and they're constantly adding and changing them anyway, that the game has become it's not like a get CC'd or get comboed and stand up and you have one more chance like it used to be. It's more of the fight is in the art of the catch, right? That is the challenge. It's the art of getting the catch, and having as little of that be up to RNG as possible is definitely in the good of the game. So
I mean,
I think it'd be okay.
And just in case I heard you wrong, I feel like it's no longer about the art of the catch anymore. I think the game's moved away from that.
In what way?
You think so?
In a lot of capacities, with how strong a lot of these classes are, you don't even have to catch someone necessarily anymore.
I mean, that is
Just
true.
throw 'em
Yeah,
up.
actually.
Like the art of the catch was the old BDO. That's the BDO like I was fully invested in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, you're not wrong in like the way Nova functions and Sage functions, but there's still a lot of classes that don't. If you're 1v1ing somebody, there's I would say like
I mean, I say
maybe
it from, like, a
15% of the
Tamer-
classes are like that, but the rest are not.
From like a Tamer perspective, it's an all or nothing. You aren't going to chip anybody down. You're not going to trade them. You're either going to get the catch and kill them, or you don't get the catch and you die. So it's like, but from like these newer classes, obviously they can just destroy you standing up. I mean, even like, decently geared Dark Knights in the same sense. So it's like, I guess it really just depends on the situation, right? I guess, but I do agree. I will say, which would be a nice segue.
I don't lump grab in there as like a part of the, that's the art of the catch kind of thing. Even though technically it should be classified as that, it's just in a lot of capacities, and this is just my personal opinion. I just don't. In a lot of ways, I don't see. Like you said yourself earlier, it's low skill ceiling in a lot of cases, but there is potential for high skill ceiling with grabs. But I feel like in majority of cases, it's more on the low skill ceiling. So there's not really much art of the catch involved with it, in personal opinion.
I think
But this is coming from someone who obviously doesn't use a grab, so obviously a lot of bias there. So
for most players, and it does depend on the grab to some extent, but for most players, like grab is kind of low floor. It depends on like, and I just say that it's high ceiling because at least in my perspective, right?
yeah,
It's very easy to for me to punish missed grabs personally.
Yeah.
Even striker grab, the gap for me with like Moonlight Core is very easy to punish. So if you fuck up your grab and you are in a class that it's literally completely protected for, I'm going to kill you for it. And also, I feel like grab is such a strong mechanic. Like if you know exactly how a class works, like for example, DK or hash, you can, or even guardian, you just count iframes and then you have guaranteed grab and you win. There's nothing they can do about it. And that's like where I see the high ceiling part of the grab.
or you just get a slow on an opponent that doesn't necessarily have as many iframes or those kinds of movement abilities to protect themselves and outplay a grab potential, and you just go in and easily grab them.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, just my own take on it, I guess.
Do you guys think that it's time for a DP rebalancing? Because in the current state of the game, I mean, this is the way I feel. I don't feel like DP really even does anything unless it does. And if it does a lot. But most of the time, it's not really doing anything in terms of PvP.
You're saying just in general? You're asking like if we feel DP does anything?
Like, not does anything, but do you think that DP scaling should be rebalanced than the way it currently is?
Well, I think about this all the time because on one hand, I'm like, yeah, it would be really nice if we could all feel a little bit more tanky. And then I remember how Mystics and Strikers would also benefit from that. And then I think, nah, I'm good on that. I'm good on that. And it's funny because from a lot of Mystics and Strikers I talk to, their point of view is that they go into large scale and they just die, which is why I think a better solution would be changing large scale to where people want to split up and do different tasks instead of ball v ball. That way these tanky classes can feel like they're actually tanky when they're in a 1v2 or a 1v3.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah, and I still also think like DP would feel a little bit better if Nova wasn't too strong and if Sage wasn't too strong. Because like I think your DP does matter in a lot of matchups. But it depends. Like some of the classes, like I don't know, they kind of make your DP feel not very good. So
because like I feel like in the state of the game, the only thing that really matters nowadays is your AOE and can you like does your kit give you the tools to get your damage off personally? Yep. So it's like I don't really feel like DP even matters unless you're fighting somebody that's so much under you. And even at that point, no matter how much DP or evasion you have, like these new classes, like Sage, their kit gives them all the accuracy they're gonna need anyway. So I just feel like DP, the way DP scales and the functionality of DP is outdated and needs a look. But that's just my opinion, just because again, I feel like the only thing that matters is your how much AoE is in your kit, and does your kit give you the tools to get into position to get that damage out?
I'm
Yeah.
from my viewpoint, this is completely biased, and I know it's biased. I don't want DP to be any stronger than it is because I don't like getting gear checked. As someone who isn't like a super geared player, I don't enjoy getting gear checked. So
I know that feel all too well.
Because
Yeah.
it's more like it's one of those things where it's like if you play a class like Musa, Mewa, and things like that, it's like no matter how much gear you have, your kit doesn't and won't give you the tools to get into position to even do that damage more so than like it being a gear thing. So like it's like what's the point with the DP if it's on the high end like kit differences personally?
You know what's really funny too is because I hear this conversation all the time where it's like when you have a bunch of DP, you feel all the time like, ugh, dude, I got all this DP and I just die instantly. It doesn't matter. Wish my
But then
DP
if you
mattered.
don't
But then
get, like,
when
20
you're
less,
but then when you're killing, when you're PvPing, you hear 90% of people, if you're not a Sage or a Nova or like maybe a Zerker, people are like, God, dude, I just don't do enough damage. This is useless. In Node War, I run into all these people I can't kill. It's like this weird, I don't know if it's just like the gear disparity is so big, but it's like half the people feel like they don't do any damage, and the other half feel like everyone does way too much damage and they just die instantly.
That's why I like said DP is weird. It's like because it's like it either does nothing or it does everything, right? It's one of those things where it feels like it's not doing anything for you, or you feel like this guy does no damage to me.
I think a
Basically.
lot of
It's
that
really
has
weird.
has to do with like basically if you don't get it's whether you get up or not, right? And if you get up, DP is like infinitely more useful than if you don't get up.
yeah, that's probably
True.
a lot of it.
Well, I honestly think like I value pretty highly being able to get off more than one ability when you're not CC'd, because like if you jump into a group or like let's say you're in a 2v2 or a 3v3 and you die by your second ability if you're only using protected skills, like it's
There's nothing
pretty
bad about that.
yeah, it's pretty major to
Yeah.
be able to survive for 4 or 5 abilities versus, oh, I did one skill, now I have to run away, you know? Like having a little bit of DP, everyone, you're going to die if you get CC'd 95% of the time. But for me, DP has changed to like, you want to be able to survive when you're not CC'd is the
Yeah.
thing. Why DP becomes
Yeah, exactly.
really
Yeah,
important.
yeah. And I think that's what Nyashi was saying, where it's like it's not really the art of the CC anymore in that sense, or the catch. It's more so like, okay, does your class have a high enough burst threshold when using 2 skills to, blow some people up and then get out? And in
Yeah.
that situation, I can see that, yeah, it's not really about the art of the catch. It's about does your kit give you those tools to get out some quick damage in 2 skills? Which is one of
Yeah.
the reasons why I feel like that's why I feel like DP is kind of in a weird spot.
Yeah, I don't know what you would do. It's kind of weird. This is a really outlandish and not well thought out idea, but I was thinking so right now the way down smash works kind of gives like sorks or rangers that have really low gear a little bit more of an ability to potentially kill people that outgear them, but it doesn't make them do more damage in large scale, which made me think, wouldn't it be kind of interesting? This is all in theory. But if they sort of reduced the damage of everybody, instead of giving everyone more DP, just reduce everyone's damage by like, I don't know, 5 or 10%, but make it so everyone can get just one guaranteed down smash, so your combo can be longer if you end up catching someone in 1v1, so you still are able to kill them because you get off 1 or 2 more skills. But in large scale, everyone survives a little bit longer when they're not CC'd because everyone's doing less damage.
I mean, I would even be okay with them shifting AP bracket thresholds upwards in a way that didn't, or for PvP specifically, I know would be really weird and hard to do, but it's like, you know, like comparatively with all the AP they give away and the way AP scales, it just infinitely outscales the way DP does.
Mhm.
So like I mean I would even be in favor for in terms of PvP them shifting up like currently, you know, 269 being that big AP breakpoint for PvP. I mean, I would even be okay with them shifting it up maybe 10 AP or something. Something that wouldn't have a crazy big impact, but it might have a little bit of a field difference in PvP.
Yeah. I mean, the other
Because
thing
like
too,
a lot of times now you just aim for like that 305 or whatever, and then you're just stacking accuracy, right?
right.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, I think the idea of special attack damage was there for that reason, to make you feel tanky in group fights, and then if someone catches you or CCs you, or even in a group fight, if you get CC'd, you kind of die a lot quicker. But it feels like damage has gotten to a point where you don't need to be CC'd to kill people a lot of the time, and the difference in whether they're CC'd or not doesn't feel that impactful, especially with like special attack evasion being a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It almost like if they reduced everyone's damage a little bit, but buffed down attack or air attack. So the difference was like your air attack damage and down attack feels the same as today, but if they're not CC'd, it's less. Like something along those lines. Because like I was saying, like outside of, I mean, I know Naisha, you feel like it's not about the art of the catch anymore, but outside of like Sage and Nova, most matchups in a 1v1 scenario, which is kind of like you're not going to die standing up usually. I mean, maybe like in your case against Corsair, I know Lorenz sent you to New World, but like I know in like most matchups, typically speaking, you're not going to die. Like, so for example, like I fight Sage all the time in large scale, and I'm just like, dude, I literally just die standing up. But if I 1v1 a Sage in Battle Arena, they're normally not killing me standing up because I'm able to sit there in frontal guard and kind of wait or stay back and then engage when I want to and control the fight more. It's like a totally different beast. So that's why I feel like in large scale people do too much damage. In 1v1s the damage it's okay for the most part. Obviously some exceptions like Sage Nova, but I don't know.
DKs don't kill you standing up?
I mean, multi does.
Like you don't get hit by 2 shift E's and die, or shift E and a shift Q, like
I mean, like because
I was doing that to people with hardly any effort.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Multi does that, but most DKs don't do that to me. But I have a decent amount of DP. Like I'm like 385 with Nuver. With DR, so
yeah, you're in a little bit different gear bracket.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Multi does do that where it feels like, man, I literally can't use the super armor skill or he's gonna kill me. But outside of multi, like there's not a whole lot of DKs with. I mean, dude, that's the other thing too, is like that's why it's like funny that people, it feels like DP doesn't matter, but at the same time, like if you talk to any DK, I remember talking to Smoover about this, and he's like, yeah, if I don't have human damage, it feels like I don't do any damage. It's like such a weird, I don't know, it's like we don't do enough damage, but we do way too much damage.
Yeah, like, you know, when me and Bass were in large scale, we'd run the human damage.
Yep.
Because, I mean, we dive in, we're going to blow up with our gear anyways. We don't have enough DP to survive, so we maximize our output when we dive. And fared pretty well. We would just... He'd obviously do a shitload better because he has a lot better positioning and whatnot. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
Who knows?
There's too many different like scenarios where touching this messes with this, touching that. I can't think of the answer.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've been saying we need a pant slot. We need some DP pants that only give you defensive stats, you know?
Yeah.
We enhance my pants. They'll make a bunch of money off of it with cron stones and artisans.
Artisans, yeah, that's true.
Everyone will feel more tanky.
I don't want people to be more tanky.
Dude, you know what's crazy about it?
It feels really weird though, dude, because it's like that like negatively hurts classes that need combo and setup when killing someone.
Yeah.
But true. It's like good for protection against these classes that have the kits to just melt someone while they're standing without CCs. It's like a
Well,
really hard balance to find.
Well, I mean, I guess this kind of goes to what Frosty was saying earlier. I think you were saying this, Frosty. Make it so, because you were mostly focusing on like the down smash and making sure 1v1s had more potential, while that wouldn't impact the large scale at all. I guess another kind of like way to look at that would be maybe they take less damage if it's like in super armors and whatnot, but the special attack damage modifiers and whatnot have more impact. And when you consider the fact that people have special evasion and whatnot, that would help balance it out in a way, potentially. But still be like really effective if those modifiers actually were to, happen. So I don't know. That could be maybe something as well.
Yeah, I mean, right now, so special attacks like down attack and air attack have different modifiers in PvP than they do in PvE. Maybe it would make sense to make them the same in PvP and PvE, and then just reduce the damage of the skills to make up the difference. So it does the same when you're CC'd, but less when you're not. So, for example, down attack right now, if you have a mob on the ground and your skill has the down attack modifier, it's going to do 1.5 times the damage. Against a player, it's only 1.2 times. So maybe if that did 1.5 times against players, but then reduce the damage of all abilities to make up that difference, so you just do less when they're not CC'd, might actually make large scale feel better, but leave 1v1 basically the same.
Well, it would also help out with what Khur was saying. Basically, if someone that relies on comboing to deal their damage, they can actually benefit from that and still be effective in large scale without needing to require more gear in order to be effective. So I don't know. It could be an idea.
It's an interesting conversation, honestly.
All right, I'm gonna just go through some of these other these GLab changes. I wanted to talk about the dungeon, but because none of us did the dungeon, I feel like we probably shouldn't. I'll save that until next week, because I'll be able to do the dungeon a few times this week. But I do want to talk about some of this stuff. So they're adding a new ping system, which is kind of cool. So when you ping, there will be a little icon with the pings, and you'll be able to do them with like shift 1, 2, 3, and 4. I saw someone say they stole them directly from League, lawsuit coming. But I don't care. I love them. We have needed pings forever. I can't believe it's just now coming. You can also add, apparently you're going to be able to set like guild, like you'll be able to assign like a person in your party, like a leadership icon, so they have something above their head, which will be kind of cool. Like, so for example, in this example, it shows like a person with a crown. So maybe if you put this crown on your shot caller, you just see the giant yellow crown around them, so you know where they are at all times. This is really cool. Someone's saying we need a question mark ping to ping people that aren't listening to calls.
Yeah.
True.
I think even more like shot calling or like large scale coordinability. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It is always good. Just more information and more tools to the players when in terms of like group scenarios is always good.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I didn't even read this part. I'm looking at it now. Are we gonna be wearing the console costumes in Siege now? Is that gonna be mandatory?
That's what it looks
for
like,
all of us?
dude. It
Oh
looks
my
like
God.
it will assign our own like little costume color
We're gonna get
coordinated.
No.
uniforms, man.
No.
Those look like Bugatti outfits.
They do. I liked this change for consoles because it made it so we could laugh at them more, and now we're getting it. No.
Maybe they've seen a good like performance increases because of it, and they think that it would help in the PC version as well. I mean, even if your character looks weird, if it means the difference between it being a stuttery mess and it
Yeah.
actually running good, I mean, that's a trade-off you make, right?
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I don't know. They added again the bullet point: if a guild occupies a territory, they'll be able to participate in node wars in other territories. This has been in the patch on Global Labs like 12 times and not actually added to live server. So that's kind of cool. I don't know. The costumes look so bad. They do it feels more like I don't know how much it's going to actually help performance. But if it doesn't help it enough, then I'm just going to chalk it up to it's a Bugatti sponsorship that they didn't want to talk about. Because it really does look like the Bugatti outfit. A lot. And I hope they give the short cape to Tamer and Zerkers. So,
and Maywas, sadly.
Yeah, and Maywas.
Hey, don't do that shit.
And Maywas. There was a new outfit that apparently all classes are getting, which I actually think looks really cool. But maybe I'm alone.
Yeah, it's supposed to come next week. I like it. It's like an actual non-sexualized outfit.
Yes, exactly, which are so rare.
It's like some steampunk kind of like. I really like the outfit.
I need to find it now. Where is this outfit? Also, the Maywa one in game. The weapon on the Maywa one looks so cool to me.
Yeah, actually, it did.
Okay, so here's the image of the female one. I'll post it in the chat if you guys haven't seen it. And then here's the female one without the cape. Post that also. And then the male one is also, it's like super steampunky. Whoops. I don't know, they're pretty cool. I'm with you, Khur, and like I don't know, it's so rare that we get an outfit that has actual like pants or leggings. It's always I don't know, not this. So it looks really cool. It's a nice difference.
Yeah, I like that they're doing something different more than giving every class the checkmate outfit.
The checkmate outfit.
I think we're in the minority on this because people like more skin and less coverage, but I don't know. I like something different. Like the thought of being able to have like actual armor or like, you know, some kind of like cloak and actual pants and stuff.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've seen the class reworks, schedule. Every class is going to be on Global Labs by the 29th. Obviously, all of them or most of them are going to have to be tweaked multiple times. When do you think the reworks are going to come to live server?
February.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably January, February. Whenever the new game comes out.
Yeah. When's Lost
The
Ark
new
coming
game
out
already
again?
came
2020?
out. The Lost
Lost
Ark's not
Ark's
coming out
like
till March.
February,
dude.
March.
Oh, there you go, March. Perfect.
Okay.
It looks like a
Well,
good time
so-
of year too. You know?
So they always get you with the last line. They were like, so our plan is we'll have all of these reworks out by October, and we'll make that by not doing any changes. We'll wait till November, and we'll spend the whole month of November to make changes. It's like, hell yeah, that means we're going to get it in December. Well, they said, well, we plan to release it in December, but that can be delayed due to complications. So it's like, okay, so it probably will get delayed.
I think it's coming in December. I think it's coming.
Think so?
I do. And here's why. Because I think that even after they do like 2-3 rounds of changes, that they'll be close enough that they'll feel comfortable releasing it in December, and while still having a couple changes come to live server after it's out. Just because people are complaining so much about it, I think they're going to release it in December. Now, that is hinging on it all being out in October. If this October date gets pushed back anymore, then I don't think it's coming December. I think there's no way it's coming in December if any of these dates get moved back. Like if the 29th comes around and they're like, sorry, Kuno and Ninja actually weren't done, then I'm retracting everything I just said. And it's coming in 2022, probably with the release of Lost Ark.
I hate it for Musa, Maewa, Kuno, and Ninja. Not so much Ninja because Ninja's fuck Ninja, but it's like you can tell that they saved them for last on purpose, and I feel like it's more so that they're gonna get a lot of the same cookie cutter changes to both. So it's like they're being rushed, I feel, honestly, because it's like why else would they think that they can pump out 4 classes in 1 week and then 5 the next week when they've done one every like 2 weeks so far?
Who cares
So
about these classes? Easy.
yeah, I feel like that's pretty scary. But I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if they can pull off 5 classes in 1 week. Like that's a lot.
I just think it's not the same people that are working on all of them. So I think it's like the timeline is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be different teams working on it, of course. But it's like if they're holding themselves to these impossible deadlines continuously, there's no way that somebody doesn't get shafted in the class department.
The fear that I'm worried about with how these are all bunched together, especially on the last week where it's Kuno, Ninja, Mystic, Lon, and Zerker, that they put all their thinking is, all right, let's put all these classes last that don't need a lot of changes because they're already good. That's what scares me.
Well, looking at that lineup, I mean,
because Zerker, Lon, Mystic, Ninja, Kuno, like Mystic needs some minor changes. The other 3 classes, Ninja, Lon, Zerker, are already super good, and then they might just be lumping Kuno in there. They might be lumping Kuno in there, dude, because people complain about Tenon Cutter.
It's basically done.
You need more hopium.
No, dude. Kuno's already too good. Kuno's already too. I read that Reddit post that was complaining about Suck Kuno the other day that was like, Tamers in the ART project asked for nerfs, so they're respectable, but Kuno doesn't deserve shit. They're already way too strong, and Tenon Cutter's the most busted skill in the whole game. I was just like, oh god.
I mean, they ain't wrong.
Yeah.
Class is too OP.
Well, I don't know. I feel like fighting Suck Kuno is the way I wish a lot of other classes felt, in the sense that Suck Kuno is very, very strong if you're oblivious and you don't care to actually learn the matchup. Yep. But it's one of those things where it's like, because I've goofed off on it a decent bit when it first got its reworks. It's like when you meet somebody new that hasn't fought it and experienced it, you can style on them 5 to 10 times. But then they sort of start realizing, like, okay, that's how their movement works with Tenon Cutter, and that's how Flash Slash works and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, my win rate against them just went from 80% to now, 50, 60% at best if it's a good matchup. So it's like, I feel like I wish a lot more classes were like that, where they have good counterplay, but if you don't care about learning the counterplay, then you're going to get rolled.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Like a lot of times, I remember like a duel for spot with a ranger. It was a Suck Ranger, and I was on Suck Kuno, and he says R, I say R, and he literally opens with Descending Current. So Tenon Cutter just bops him, and then he types like, that class is so dumb. And it's like, you used Descending Current. What were you expecting to happen? I don't know. It's like, I don't know what class wouldn't catch you if you open with the non-CC, just kind of mediocre damage ability. This is so weird. Yeah, I don't know.
That was his pro strat, man.
I've talked about it a bunch of times. I actually don't think Kuno needs that much stuff. In Suck, it just needs some sort of protected damage for large scale, and Awakening just needs its damage to make a little bit more sense. And then maybe something with it like Lunar Dash needs to be changed. But we'll see. I'm sure it'll get a lot of changes. I know a lot of Kunos are afraid that it's going to get a bunch of really cool changes and then get nerfed immediately when it's on live server.
I think you're going to get the best PvE buffs you could ever ask for.
Dude, that's my main thing. Just give me some PvE buffs, dude. I'd be so happy.
They've been listening to your rant about it for so long. They're like, fuck it. Turbo the fuck out of that PvE. Make sure that shit is jacked.
Yeah. GGX saying Frosty wanted Kuno completely. No, that I do want it busted. Look, here's the thing. For a long time, I've been saying, like, I hope that the changes are subtle and mild, but I've gone back on that. I want to be as strong as Awaken Nova and Sage. In fact, I want Awaken Nova and Sage to feel outdated when they fight my Kuno. I want them to be like, what the hell, man? We need some damage and mobility. I want Kuno to be so completely busted that everyone complains about it forever. And I want them to forget changing it for like a year. I want them to be like, oh shit, we probably should have addressed this a year ago.
I mean, honestly, in the current state of the game, if your class is balanced, it's bad. Because if it's balanced, that means it's making a trade-off for a different department where there's other classes that don't have to make trade-offs. So you should just hope to be OP and then pray they knock you somewhere in between.
Yeah, if I have someone in my crosshair, I want Sinew Cut to launch on top of them like the new Tamer trap. If I have someone in my crosshair on Flash Slash, I want it to make me come out of Flash Slash behind that person.
Oh my god.
I want Shadow Explosion to be a 360 AoE and have it be fully super armor. And have a stun on good hits.
Alright, intern, ignore all this shit.
I want
Old AoE stiffen on Tendon Cutter.
Yeah, make Ankle Cutter an iframe, but still have the bound. All sorts of fun stuff. Yeah, I want Dance Macabre to linger back, and I want it to stun on good hits. all that good stuff. Please make it happen, and then just like triple the damage across the board. All right, I think that's it. I don't know. There's Tamer's changes are actually, of all the classes, I actually think Tamer changes are the most subtle overall. I don't think that they're bad changes. I actually think they're good changes overall, but they're the least like dramatic. Part of that is
they don't change her place in the game.
Yeah, they don't change her place too much.
Better or worse at anything. She's just kind of.
I think she'll be better in PvE.
Same.
I think overall she'll be better in PvE. I think AoE size makes a big difference even when it's minor in PvE. Like I remember when Awaken Nova got the AoE changes to SLMB, SF, and was it either SQ or SRMB? I forget. And one of those skills, like it made a huge difference in grinding. So even like minor AoE increases will help grinding, at least for Awakening. But outside of that, yeah, it doesn't seem super major. But we also are like we're missing that skill. That skill could be who knows? It could make a huge difference. Hopefully, it's a protected damage skill for your guys' sake.
Honestly,
Or if it's unprotected and has decent reach. I mean, I would take that.
I'm pretty happy with how Tamer is right now, like on live. So, if not too much changes and the class is still like kind of in the same place it is, then like from my bias point of view, I wouldn't mind. But I know a lot of other people aren't as satisfied with the class.
Yeah, you basically have two types, basically, right? You have the Tamers that are like 1v1 is their thing, and they're all about the skill cap of the 1v1. And then you have the other Tamers that want to have a purpose in terms of like large scale things, which is like the entirety of the in-game content, right? Being RBF, Node War, and Siege. So it just really depends on where you fall on that spectrum, honestly.
I feel like the class in like Node War, if the node isn't too big and like RBF is actually like still really good as well. It's just like really hard to play to like its full extent because of how reliant is on frontal blocks.
All right, is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we hop? Is Tamer the most busted class after the reworks?
I feel like people have been moving towards playing Tamer more though in recent times.
Dude, I feel like partly because of that guy. What is that guy's name that has that Tamer guide?
Poncho
Her being
Bandit?
able to grind
Dude.
underwater is huge for her.
Yeah. PvE makes it, dude. If your class can people will play bad PvP classes if you can grind on them. Not that Tamer's bad in PvP, but just saying straight up, like look at how bad. Like Suck Lawn is considered pretty awful in PvP for most people, and it's like the most popular class right now. So it's like people will play a class if it's not great, as long as it's super good in PvE. So the PvE buffs, I think, definitely made it more viable. I think way more people would play Kuno too, even if nothing changed in PvP, if it was just good in PvE. But yeah, balance. I was gonna say that guy Poncho, his guide is actually incredible. It's so good
Yeah.
for new people, and it makes you want to play Tamer. It's so well put together. I watched that guide and I was like, dude, I want to play this class. It's like so cool the way he like describes everything and talks about everything and explain. I mean, he also has a lot of cool tips in there that I think a lot of people learning how to PvP could learn from. Especially like he talks a lot about knowing what other people are doing, which I think is people just don't do that anymore. They're so used to killing people standing up on their Sage and Nova that they don't even want to learn what people do anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I guess we'll call it there. We're gonna go to the comments and balance. Khur, you guys are 100% welcome to stay. I actually missed last week's episode because I was out of town, Ashy, so I have no idea what any of the comments will be pertaining to.
Try to recall what they might have been about.
Okay, let me know if there's something I missed because I completely missed last week's episode. But Khur, you want to share where people can find you again?
It's just same old twitch.tv/KHUR.
Are you streaming New World at all?
Not very much. I more so see New World as like a, hang out in Discord with the boys, shoot the shit, have some fun, more so than like a want to
It is
stream
more
it.
community centric, so yeah. that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I don't feel like New World is very stream friendly because there's a whole lot of like downtime where you're either just like gathering resources or you're looking for the fight or things like that. So I just more so like it as a chill thing.
Yeah.
Balance, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/notbalance.
All right, and then that Tamer guide we're all expecting real soon after rework.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah, so like I said, if you guys want to stick around for the comments, awesome. If not, you are free to go. All right, Magnus 5 Cream just puts a picture of a medal. House of Mana says, wow, we watch this still, guys. We love you, even if it's just Mazarkapalooza. Oh, Mewa Zerkapalooza. Eumenidai says, speedrun the podcast any percent. Oh yeah, last week's podcast was only 1 hour long. It was like really short.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you were missing to White Knight anything that could potentially have been
Yeah,
talked
I would have
about.
white knighted the hell out of it. You guys were probably all wrong the whole time last week.
Makes sense.
Blood Wolf says, honestly, it may be better to release all and then do tweaks because currently we focus on 2 classes a week. In the moment one release, we see it as broken, as with all release classes. If all comes together in Global Labs, then at least we can test all classes against each other. And currently people can say Sork Warrior Striker is overpowered, but maybe they're even undertuned compared to other reworks for all we know. Yeah, it's hard to gauge, and everyone like reacts so crazily. Yeah, I also think, I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I also just think instead of making all the changes, like you might as well just get them all out and then tweak them all. I just hope that they tweak them a lot like they were doing with Ranger and Warrior.
That's why
I thought
the
that was
Tamer
cool.
one's kind of. That's why the Tamer one's kind of funny because it's the first of the reworks where people haven't been like, "Wow, that's broken. That's so strong." And people just like, "Oh, okay." The Hailing riding looks cool, but so that was kind of funny to see. Just
Yeah.
that gauging the reaction of the community being so different for hers than the other ones we've gotten so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, you know, you also had Sorks, half the Sorks saying that all they got was quality of life. So, you know.
True.
Devil Monkey says, so they stopping the updates for classes that got reworks and further down, but will still push out reworks. It's smart. They are behind as far as from what I see. They need to do this if they want to be on time. This happens when you skip days or have holidays in for them and then miss that day, and at least they see not being on time with the thing, so it's a good thing. I accidentally skipped John. He says, I agree, BDO progression is very bad. Don't feel really new bracket. AP, DP, PA should look at that problem. See, I don't... Do you feel like BDO's progression feels like you don't feel your upgrades?
I mean, I haven't felt an upgrade in a long time, personally.
Balance?
I mean,
On Tamer, I don't really feel it because I feel like Tamer doesn't need gear to kill people.
Yeah. I mean, Tamer also doesn't really scale with AP because your pet does flat the same amount of damage with his follow-ups once you hit 100 AP as compared to 300. So like Tamer, it's one of those things where it's like you don't SA trade or like kill people standing up. So it's like you either get the catch and then get a full combo and kill them. But I feel like I would feel it more if I played a different class.
Yeah, I think part of the issue too is you're hitting so many people with wildly different gear levels. So you don't have like a precise, unless you duel like the same person every day, you're probably not going to feel it that much.
Every time I was getting into fights in open world, I would, after the fight is done, I would, every once in a while, it depends on the nature of that particular fight, I'd ask them what their DP was, just a kind of rough idea.
Well, it's funny. Here's how I know that people actually have no idea if it feels better or worse, because I always see people, they're like, dude, I just got my Pen Dandy to C9. I hit a bracket, went to RBF, feels real good, dude. And it's like, okay, the variables in RBF are insane. Not to mention you have no idea when they have the RBF DR or not. It's just like, I don't know. You have no idea.
I didn't even feel it getting 2-pin black stars. I mean, so it's kind of weird. I don't know. I felt the main hand in PvE a decent bit. My numbers went up a little bit, but yeah. I actually don't really feel gear upgrades nowadays, to be honest. But again, I think it's also, like you said, the variance and the people that you're fighting is so high. Like you could meet anybody ranging from you, who's like 380 DP Nuver, to somebody that has like, 320. So I think that is a big part of it. True.
Let's see. Julian Page says, what annoys me most is not the pushback of the rework, but all the announced content that we will not get this year. Hardcore Grind Zone, Ranked PvP, or Ranked Arena, PvP Season, New RBF, Elvia Calphion, Main Guild Server, Server Wars, Snow Area. It's all content that hyped me so much, which was supposed to be released this year, and as it's going right now, I have the feeling we will only get the class reworks in the new dungeon for the rest of the year, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, it does feel bad. Like, I want all of that stuff too, especially the ranked arenas. But I do think, like, the ranked arenas, especially if you play one of the classes that are getting reworked, will feel better if you feel like your class is competent.
I really hope when they do release ranked arenas, they do it right. Like, I feel probably trial gear is like the most fair way to do it. There's so many like meme gem builds you could do if you could just do whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm like half and half. I know, like, trial, on one hand, trial gear feels the most fair because everyone has the same stuff, but then it feels like not fair because some classes just can't kill other classes in trial gear, like, at all.
That's true.
And
I think they should be 2. I mean, there should be 2 for the ranked ones, one for trial, one with trial or gear equalization, and one without.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe with all the reworks, some of the classes won't feel that way, but as of right now, like, I don't know, I could tell you as an Awaken hash on trial gear, especially if you go to AoA where you can't use any buffs, when you fight against a striker or mystic, it feels like you do no damage. Like, I can CC them all day, I just can't actually kill them. Yeah, but I would like all that. Hopefully we get an update on what's going to happen with that content down the road. But for me personally, this is more just personal, selfish. I'm more excited about the reworks than all of that content, because I think it'll make some of the existing content more fun on some of these classes. I think it sucks right now having to play classes that you don't really love playing to try to make PvE work is like the big thing. Like, PvEing on the class you actually like is, I don't know, cool. I think. I don't know. Actually, I've never felt it. Dreadspark says, with New World as a distraction, I'm feeling like BDO is starting to become a problem I don't need anymore. Like, Dreadspark is a Shai. Don't listen. I don't know.
Shai, so he might change his opinion.
I think that feeling is pretty normal if you play any new game when you have played a game for a long time. It's kind of how I felt with... I played Blade and Soul after Terra, and I was just like... I didn't have any intention of not playing Terra anymore, but I was like, I can't play Terra anymore. I think I'm done. And it was like sad. It's like it's like a chapter of your life closing. So I don't think that's that abnormal to play a new game where you're actually enjoying it and not feeling like you want to go back to your old game. That BDO is going to feel like, you know.
Yeah.
I also don't understand the sentiment that people have for shitting on a game that they have thousands of hours into. It just doesn't make sense. Where it's like, of course, if you do anything long enough, the cracks are going to begin to show. I mean, especially with a game like BDO, like it hasn't changed, right? Like developer incompetence, not meeting deadlines, horrible balances. I mean, that stuff is not new. Like that hasn't changed.
I'd say in a lot of cases, some things have changed for sure. They've definitely done a lot of adjustments to the game as far as quality of life features, introduction of new content, new systems in general, trying to revamp old ones.
Yeah, like I agree. Obviously, they've made some like quality
But
of life things.
there's definitely some things that have obviously been left untouched that, like you said, they just show and rear their ugly head, especially when you're looking at a new game.
Like it's like the people, for example, that's like, oh yeah, I clicked my necklace for pin and it blew up. Shit game. I'm gonna go play New World. Well, it's like, that's kind of like
individual.
Exactly, right? That's like an accountability simulator. It's like you clicked it, you saw the percentage. Well, what's the point of shitting on the game because you took, like, you made that decision? So I don't know. And I also don't understand the concept. Maybe you guys understand it, that in order to play a different MMO, you have to have quit your current MMO.
That's what I don't get either.
That's such a weird sentiment to me, dude.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, every game I've played in the past, I've always gone into the next game like there's nothing, like I don't even like think, it's not a thought. You just kind of go into it and you like naturally just get over the previous game or whatever. But it's always this, dude, fuck that game, it's shit. And it's like, dude, you played it for 4 years. Like that is like an indictment on yourself to be like, you invested however many hours a week for 4 years on something you hate and are not getting paid to do. That it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know, like, it's so crazy. It's like BDO more so than a lot of other games, but I have seen it with other games too, where like people are just, according to the things they're saying, they absolutely hate this game that they're choosing to play for fun. And I'm like, that is so weird because that's just like a decision of your time. Yeah, League of Legends is another one where
everyone's just a masochist.
People go back to League of Legends over and over and just talk about how absolutely fucking stupid the game is. It's really funny. Although at least with League, it's easier to go back because you blame everyone else for the problems and not yourself.
Yeah. It's my teammates. They're all shit.
Yeah, all the people that are like, dude, I'm fucking Grandmaster.
They're holding me back.
I'm Grandmaster Elo. I'm just stuck in Platinum because my teammates always suck. Like, okay. All right, fine. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but
yeah, it's a really weird mentality that I never really understood. And especially as a streamer, like, just wait, Frosty. If you ever stream another game, like another MMO, the first time you do, or even just any time you do it, you will get asked 1,000,000 times if you quit BDO without fail.
Yep. Confex says once Sork is deleted, let's put gauntlets next for deletion. Thanks, Reslar. Yeah, I know Khur, you're a notorious Sork hater. How do you feel about the Sork reworks?
Sork, just like DK, very underpowered classes that does no damage, has crazy gaps, and needs buffs.
Yeah.
The trolling is unreal.
I hope they fix.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Dude, they got the community's brainwashed. I don't know what you have to do to get the community to believe that your class is in a very bad state and very weak and does no damage unless you have 322 AP. Like, but however they did that, fucking masterminds. I will say that.
I think that's a sentiment for most classes, though. I feel like everyone thinks their class is bad, and so instead of like being a bit more realistic.
Well, Sork has this weird thing where they run into a striker that they can't kill, and then they're like, our damage sucks against everybody. We need damage buffs across the board. And it's like, no, it's just that relationship. They have like such a hard time separating it. It's like, nope, we do no damage to anybody at all, period. Our class sucks. And it's like, I don't know. I'm over here fighting Alki, and 50% of my health goes away if he uses Grim Reaper's Judgment. But all right, I guess you guys don't do any damage. The Awkward Ninja says, 1, the Value Pack podcast speedrun 80%. Frosty can only dream of achieving such a glorious time. 2, I'm not sure that making Sikrakia whatever harder than part 1 of the dungeon is.
With the name.
Yeah, is gonna pin. I thought it's just Sikrakia.
We were struggling.
I'm gonna go.
You weren't there to
Sikrakia.
correct us.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, I think it's just Sikrakia. Whatever harder than part 1 of the dungeon is gonna pan out. The player base was already not good with part 1 being too hard / long, even after the bugs are fixed mostly and rewards buffed. I guess it depends on if they make part 2 rewards even better and the launch being less buggy. Keck W. 3, whoops, last week I didn't fix my points after adding numbers to the side, splitting them up. 4, yeah, I guess Zerker's catches are still kind of shooting mobility and grabs, but we have core skill catches, which is more than we had in the days of old. And then 5, thanks for giving your best even without the knight in shining white snow armor. 6, to kill time on deader weeks, you could always see if a life skill or someone who plays the game in a weird way wants to chat, or maybe follow up on the changes if guests want to call it in for a section. I don't know what that's in reference to. If you guys said like we don't have. Oh, did you guys not have a guest last week? You didn't, right?
Yeah, we didn't have a guest for this week.
You guys should get that person who's like a perma red shy and just goes around griefing people to come on, because they play the game in a very
We've
weird
been
way.
meaning to get a Shy, but Frosty hates
Shies are too depressing to be around.
I think they were trying to grief Frosty like 2 weeks ago.
Probably that's why he doesn't want them on.
Shies put me in this weird conundrum because I am like, on one hand, I think every class should be good and viable and be good at multiple things in the game, and I think it sucks when they are bad at PvE or bad in large scale or whatever the case. But Shies are like so clearly not ever going to be good at anything outside of like the niche group PvE stuff, and maybe like as a little bit of support for group PvP. So it blows my mind that Shies are still holding on hope after this long, where I think there's a point where it's like, this is why I don't play Kuno right now, because I'm like, it's not really good in large scale, and I've accepted that it's not good in large scale, and I hope that it becomes good in large scale so I can roll back to it, but I've accepted it, and I'm not going to sit there and play on a class that makes me feel bad when I play it for that long, and I feel like Shies are just going to stay playing a class that makes them feel bad forever, and I don't know why.
I don't know. I struggle with that too. Like I don't know. I'm kind of, because I'm at that point where like I stopped pushing gear back in May, and outside of like hitting that pin disto, I haven't like made gear upgrades. But like I want to do the in-game content of the game, right? Which is RBF, Node Warren Sieges. But fuck, dude, it makes me so angry like doing those contents as a tamer. So like I understand not.
Yeah, but
Stockholm syndrome.
I get that, but at least on Tamer you have legitimate hope. My question is, why do Shies have hope? They have shown no evidence that Shies ever gonna become like better or different. I mean, dude, my like red flag number 1, when Shai came out, you weren't allowed to ride horses. Like, how are you still on that class expecting it to become like, oh, I should be able to be good at 1v1, and it's like, dude, you weren't allowed to mount mounts. You had to go on an RP donkey, and your skill was that you could lay down on it. Like, I don't know. It's like a weird.
Yeah.
That one is just, it feels like there's no hope. Like Tamer, there's hope, and you're good at different things, and they've buffed its PvE and stuff. But like Shai is just like, dude, they haven't given you guys any hope. And they, even like when they announced the reworks and Shai wasn't included, I was like, there's another red flag. I don't know why you're still holding out hope. They don't even want you to include you in the reworks. And Shai is weird. Like, they have no idea what to do with Shai. People don't realize this, but Shai is the only class that, at least that I can think of, that came out where they completely redesigned it post-release like 4 times in the first like 5 weeks. I was like showing videos on my stream like a couple weeks back. Like, people don't even remember. It had like 4 different pets that used to spawn and be summoned, and these weird evil demon goblins that spun around them, and this weird dim tree used to come out, and a panther and a bear, and like none of those things exist anymore, and those all happened not on Global Labs, they were on the fucking server.
Yeah, like your bongo abilities would summon different creatures to do different things.
Yeah. They even changed their weapon like halfway through. Remember, you had to like have one weapon, and then they gave it like all of them combined. Like they didn't have any idea what they were doing with that class. So I don't know. That class, legitimately, it's not copium. There's something a lot stronger and a lot more unhealthy that they're taking to convince themselves that Shai will be good one day. I don't know.
That's the kind of player you want to date, dude. Because even if you fuck up, they're gonna give you more chances. Because they're like,
you guys just don't understand. He's amazing. I don't care if we haven't hung out in a year and a half. I still love him. Uncool Broodling says, please tell the intern that we need the new loot scroll mechanics to auto turn off when switching characters. I mean, this one's simple. So I get why they don't want it to just turn off, because they have a cooldown for a reason, but it should turn off while you're on the other character and then maybe auto resume when you come back if you didn't pause it yourself. It is very weird that it continues running. Also, I cannot believe that it still doesn't. I went on a 10-day trip and came back, and I was like, they fixed the loot scroll thing, right? So it remembers where I put it, but no.
nope.
Why? It's the only piece of UI in the whole game that doesn't remember where you put it. It's so random. Everything else like is customizable. I don't understand why that didn't get changed.
I'm also a boomer who uses the old escape menu UI, and I would like it added to that too, please.
I'll never understand you people that use that UI. I'll never get it. It's so bad. It's bad from day one. That UI was the one thing when I first started playing BDO that almost made me not play the game. Because I before, like, it's one of the things
superior UI, dude.
It's so bad. I logged into BDO my first time, and when I hit escape, I was like, oh no. Like, this game's devs have no idea what they're doing. This is probably going to be an awful, awful game. This looks so bad. This is like the initial launch of iOS, except it doesn't even, like, limit the amount of shit you can have on that first screen. It was so bad. It looks like Windows 95, like Windows 95 UI. Like, I'm surprised there isn't a telephone icon, like an old corded telephone.
My God.
All right, that's all the comments. Khur, Balance, thank you guys so much for coming on. And I want to follow up on the Tamer skill. So I'm gonna DM you guys when that Global Lab note comes out, so I can talk about it next week. Just to get your guys' opinion on the new skill and what you guys think about it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on and talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate
Yeah, man, always a good time.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who watched. If you guys don't know, you can follow Khur on Twitch, twitch.tv/Khur, Khur. There's no underscore or anything, right? It's just Khur.
Yeah, just the 4 letters.
And then Balance is twitch.tv/notbalance. He doesn't stream as much, but he does. When he does stream, it's pretty great. Like, sometimes I saw him a few weeks back just literally styling on Nihilus. He was dueling Nihilus's Kuno and just completely farming Nihilus, but mostly just reading the chat, not looking at the fights. It was tough. Yeah.
Toxic.
He was just reading the chat, and like Nihilus was actually just getting farmed, and I was like, oh man, poor Nihilus.
He farms siege members on Arsha. It's good content.
Balance this?
Yep.
Yeah, he farms a lot of people. Oh yeah, his rolling the dice clip too, where he just starts playing the dice game while fighting that other, I think it was another Tamer, right?
The Musa.
Oh, it was a Musa, yeah. It's toxic. Nihilus is down pretty bad too, because he gets farmed by Bear, by Balance, a lot of people. It's rough. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Just the random shot at Nihilus there before we go. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I appreciate all of you. Appreciate everyone who watches the show. Appreciate all the patrons. Make sure you check out Nayashi. He'll eventually stream some New World. Twitch.tv/Nayashi_NA. Right? _NA?
Yes.
Check me out, twitch.tv/SoFrosty, and then Reslar, twitch.tv/NotReslar. We'll see you next time.